Hello everyone and welcome to GPVWC. This is round 15 and the penultimate round of the 2022 Superleague Championship. Today the championship is probably going to be wrapped up in the favour of Yannick Bock. All he needs to do is score 1 point or have his teammate and brother Leon Bock fail to win with fastest lap, and those conditions have never happened before in GPWC while the Bocks have been racing together. So realistically, Yannick is almost 100% guaranteed to be world champion by the end of today. But even so, we have to do a race as a formality, and I'm sure that we are going to enjoy it nonetheless, because along with the championship implications, we also have all of these other drivers out there racing for position. And if you saw the last round as well, it was a stark reminder that GPWC can be unpredictable even when the championship leader is running away with it. Yannick Bock ended up crashing out of the Japanese Grand Prix. Matthias Moos ended up picking up his first victory in that series. And of course, we had a double podium for the Powered by RSR team. And if you didn't see that race, it's absolutely worth going back to watch it after this one, or putting it on your watch later list, because it was quite fun as it turned out. And unfortunately, Ross McIntyre had to miss it. But Russ, you are back today and ready for the Mexican Grand Prix. How are you feeling about this?
I am feeling absolutely fantastic, thank you, Caitlin. Super happy to be back. And well, as you said, it should be championship day. The writing is seemingly on the wall, but again, go back to last round. Anything can happen in GPVWC, and to use the age-old line, it usually does. But, well, odds are not in the favour of Leon Bock. He has to win, score fastest lap, and hope his brother Yannick does not score if he wants to take the championship to the final round. And even then, it's going to be a big ask for him to do it at the final round once again. So a tall order for the driver in second place. But Yannick Bock, I mean, he's been phenomenal the past 2 seasons, of course. He was vice champion last year. He felt like it was probably stolen from him after he lost out at the final lap of the season. But now he's coming to surely put his name into the history books and stake his claim as to why he should be the champion. But he's got to do the race first. And what a track to do it here at the Autodromo Carlos Pacho. That's the wrong track. It's the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City. Very, very technical track, of course. In real life as well, it's so high in the air that the altitude, you actually have to run as the largest downforce setup you has, and even then, there's not much downforce because the air is so thin here, although R Factor 2, for all of its pluses, doesn't quite simulate that. But it's looking to be a very promising race, as always, a very technical circuit, very challenging for the drivers. Lots of overtaking opportunities as well, and I'm very excited looking forward into it. See what these drivers can do, as Jeffrey Fournier just going to show how hard these guys are pushing already on their first qualifying laps, getting all sorts of out of shape coming through the final corner, but still setting a purple final sector. It's a track with 3 very different sectors as well. The first sector, of course, you've got that big long straight, lots of stop starts. The second sector, lots of low and medium speed corners, and then that final sector, that awkward stadium section crawl. You've got to be so patient through that part of the racetrack. So it's one where setup is key as well, because it's a real compromise around here, and racing through here can be very difficult at times. So it's going to be interesting to see, but as I said, championship formalities presuming to be wrapped up today, unless disaster strikes for Yannick Bock, as it did at the last round. But we're going to have to wait and see. We're in qualifying. There's Alessandro Quinte going for a spin and getting it going once again. And, well, couldn't be happier to be here.
Indeed, Alessandro Quinte in unfortunately the only Pescara ADG car today. We're missing 1 Pescara, 1 VBM, and 1 Mayor Downward Racing car as well. And both of the Musto cars once again have failed to show, but we still have 23 cars here today. There is your singular VBM esports car, Daniel Brewer. And VBM was a no-show at the last round, so it's good to have at least one of those cars back on the grid in what is set to be their final season of GPVWC competition. So the order after the first few flying laps, Stefan Ruhl is top of the times by less than 1/10 of a second ahead of Yannick Bock and Dan Brewer, very close up the top between those 3. Matthias Moos is P4, and then just 0.003 of a second back is Sandeep Singh in P5. Sandeep still standing in for Maciej Winnick, who has been a no-show in 3 of the last 4 rounds of this championship, I'm afraid to say. So whatever's going on with Maciej, it's clearly not being resolved anytime soon, which is a shame because realistically Maciej was the main challenger to Yannick's crown until he missed that round in Italy. And then of course Yannick went on a bit of a rampage, winning Belgium, Italy and Singapore back to back to back. Here is Tomasz Wok now, one of the top drivers from the last round. But one thing to keep in mind is that at this circuit, you don't have the high downforce setups that you have in real life. And of course, in real life, you have them here because of the low altitude. It makes the air thinner. It means that you have to run higher wings in order to keep the car planted. On this, it actually doesn't simulate the air pressure, so they're actually running quite low downforce for the straights and for the overtakes. But you still do require downforce for some parts of the circuit. For example, the S's that Tomasz Wok is heading into now. And what we've seen in the support category so far is that actually it makes it so that it's very, very difficult to win the race from pole. Because if you qualify on pole, it can actually be a bit of a bad sign that you've set your car up for this sector rather than the track as a whole. And then of course all the other drivers have got to do is hang on to your tail through that sector, and they can fly straight past you on the straights. So usually it's the drivers from the 2nd row to maybe the 5th or 6th row that are really the best cars for a race point of view. Although of course the drivers will still be absolutely going like the clappers in qualifying to get themselves as high up the order as they can, because that will give them an advantage for the inevitable wheel-to-wheel racing that we are going to see. Stefan Rohr about to improve his provisional pole time. Daniel Stepkowski is currently 2nd, so we've got 4 cars within a 1/10 of a second. Not anymore, because Stefan Rohr sets a 1:13.596 for us. And Ross is still muted. I don't know if you know that, Ross, but that is okay.
I do apologise. Early challenges there being set by Stefan Rohr, the champion from last year. But now it's not going to go his way this season. Yannick Bock qualifying 3rd. Again, all he needs to do is finish in the points, and he is crowned the 2022 GPVWC Super League World Champion. Rolt stole it from him at the last lap last season in the final round. This time, he's going to take it, presumably, unless something goes horrifically wrong for him, a round early. But a good lap there from Stefan Roll, nearly 0.2 of a second faster than Stepkowski at the moment. Again, that gap will surely fall, and fast alarms will surely be set as the track rubbers in, as the drivers start to find their groove. Again, private qualifying here in GPVWC, so you can't rely on slipstreams or bad traffic for your opponents. You just got to go in there and set the best lap time that you can. But a very strong lap time, and in sim racing terms, well, a 1/10 of a second followed by 700th and 8,000ths. That is light years. So a very strong lap from the number 1 driver. Jannes Volbant comes to the line, takes the shortest line possible, goes P19 and 1:14.433, just under a second off of Rolt's time so far. But again, just over 6 minutes left in this qualifying session, so plenty of opportunity for drivers to maybe make some changes, get back out there, just finally find their rhythm. You know, we're often used to seeing drivers having late surges here as they just, something clicks as they get late into the qualifying session, as Mike Quint with 2 green sectors heading into this final stadium section looking very empty, it must be said, for this qualifying session. Hopefully it's much more packed for the race. Maybe social distancing still a thing in virtual Mexico, who's to tell. But as Quint comes round the final corner now and takes the shortest run to the line, it will be a 14.5 and it will be P20 for Mike Quint. Again, this is a line, as Pascal Palens actually dives into the pits, that's a line you don't really see that much in real life. In real life, they're much more likely to run it out to the outside and take the normal racing line to the final corner. But more and more this season, we've just been seeing drivers out of the final corner taking the shortest run to the line, which is very interesting to see. Obviously, there's things to be gained there. So maybe if you've been taking regular lines and you're looking to build your way up into the GPVWC world, watch this space. That could be a little bit of a tactic to get your eyes into. Hello and welcome. If you're just joining us for round 15, the penultimate round of the 2022 GPVWC Super League season, we're here in virtual Mexico City and Autodromo. Oh, I've gotten them mixed up again, haven't I, with the other one? Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. I keep wanting to call it Jose dos Carlos Pache, but that's the next round. It's the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. And, well, if you've missed all the introductions, it's seeming more and more often that today is championship day for Yannick Bock. All he's got to do is finish in the points, and the title will be his. And well, if you haven't already, please make sure you've liked, shared, subscribed to the GPVWC channels, wherever you're watching, on whatever platform around the world. It is a real pleasure to bring you all of the action, and your help is massively appreciated. And of course, keep posting away in the comments or on social media using the hashtag GPVWC. Caitlin always keeps a keen eye on what you guys have to say. And as well, you may have some inside information that we don't know about in the commentary box, so it is more than appreciated. And on a day like today, when history could and seemingly will be written, it is perhaps more helpful than ever before. Stepkowski comes to the line. Will it be faster? It won't be pole, but it is a purple final sector. And once again, moving ever close to Stefan Rolt, who is absolutely flying. 0.3 of a second. That is massive from Stefan Rolt. In sim racing terms, that's like putting 10 laps on everyone by the end of the race. The man is flying at the moment.
Yeah, and this isn't a particularly long circuit in terms of time either, so that is a big lap from Stefan Rolt, and it's going to be difficult to beat. The difficulty, of course, is if he's set his car up to be first on a qualifying lap in particular, and it's not going to be particularly fast in the race, but that's just speculative. At this point, we've got to say what we see, and what we see is that Stefan Rolt is running away with it. Yannick Bock, though, fastest of anyone in the first sector. So Yannick Bock, purple first sector. And the first sector is probably the most important sector of the lap, because that is the one with the long straights. This circuit very much divided into three. You've got the first sector with the long straights. You've got the second sector with the S's, as Pascal Pollens goes up to second now. And you've got the third sector, which is more tight and technical and has the arena section in its midst. Is Yannick now. His second sector, not great. It's a little off what he's done in the past. It is quicker, though, than... not quite quicker than Pollens, but it's potentially quicker than what some of the other drivers around him have done. And as he crosses the line, it is an improvement. He goes up to third, or stays third, but gets closer to Pascal Pollens' time, and crucially pulls away from the drivers behind him as well. Here's Mike Quint down in 20th position. 22 drivers have set qualifying laps so far. David Yunt is the 23rd who has not. Although David has been out on circuit, so I wonder whether he's had a crash out there or something, which is why he's back in the pits. Jakub Lalu, getting a little caught out over the curbs there, possibly taking a little too much. Those are very difficult curbs to get right. They don't look particularly high, but they certainly feel like it. They get underneath the car and kind of hook it into a rail slide. And Jakub Lalu coming through and into the pits, taking the ultra short line there. If you kept on the throttle going to the pits, it would actually be a faster way to do the lap than if you took the regular start to finish straight. But then of course you risk getting a penalty for pit lane speeding and all that. Here's Matthias Moos now, and straight on to Robin Panzer, setting up for his final flying lap. And we're at that point in the session now as well, where they are setting up for their very last attempts. There are not going to be any faster laps or any new laps started. Yannick Bock is in the pits, so Yannick does not have time to get out there and start a new flying lap. There's only 15 seconds left on the timer, so he will start third at best. Pascal Pollens and Stefan Rolt will definitely start ahead of him. And Daniel Stepkowski is nipping at his heels here, setting up for his final flying lap for us.
Yeah, so crunch time now, 30 seconds left on the clock. Can anyone get any closer to Stefan Rolt? Good lap from Pollens, but still 1.5 tenths off of the pace setter at the moment who we're on board with now, the number 1 Edge Esports driver. He's down in the first sector, but by 0.003 of a second, so I don't think that's really going to have an impact on his lap. Let's see how you master a lap of this Mexico City circuit, shall we? On board with the reigning champion for the time being. Just a little bit wide, clips the yellow sausage curb and then misses the apex to the left as a result. So it may not be that this is the ultimate lap come the end of it, but as he flies through to the final sector, it is still absolutely flying. And yeah, he's down a little bit further through the middle as well as a result of that slight mistake and a bit of a slide as well. Through the right-hander, misses the apex of the left-hander. This isn't a particularly tidy lap by the number 1 of Stefan Rolt. But as he comes to the line, does he improve for the final sector? No, he doesn't. He's massively down on his own best time, so Rolt can no longer improve. Sandeep Singh in the other edge car goes to P5. Matthias Moose, a purple first sector, but down massively in the middle sector, perhaps pushing a bit too hard. He's going to have a mega job in the final sector if he wants to try and challenge for that pole position. What's going to be for the 76? As he comes to the line, he goes to 5th. So a good result there from Matthias Moose. Daniel Brewer! Daniel Brewer was on. He was on for pole. And he's throwing it away in the final sector. Jeffrey Fournier also decides to bail out of the lap. But Daniel Brewer, what a shame. That was a mega lap.
I don't think he was quite on for pole, but that was a true purple second sector. That wasn't just a technical purple. Here comes Jakub Lalu now. He's going to stay 16th. So it looks as if the pole has been wrapped up now. There's no one coming through who looks quicker. So Stefan Roll is on pole position for this Mexican Grand Prix by a 1/10 of a second, 1.5 tenths of a second over Pascal Pollins. Wasn't quite as dominant a performance as it looked like earlier on, but even so, that's a lap that most of us could only dream of. Yannick Bock 3rd and very much in contention to win the championship if he's to finish there. Daniel Stepkowski is P4, then it's Matthias Moose, Sandeep Singh, Daniel Brewer, Robin Panzer, and Jeffrey Fournier, with Leon Bock down in 10th position. And a lot of work to do in this one, not just for the championship, because we know that's pretty much over, but if he wants to have a chance of winning this one, he's got to hope that his race setup is perfect. Heigo Poon, P11, then Tom Stevens, P12, Yanis Volburn, 13th, Thomas Vogt, P14th, and then Jan Dragoon, Jakub Lalu, Chris Shepherd, Augustin Canapino, Stephen Lexo, and Mike Quint, the top 20. Just 3 more cars to go in the order. Philip Pushke, who picked up a time penalty in the last race, dropped him a few positions. Alessandro Quinte, P22, and then David Yunt was the only driver who failed to set a qualifying lap there, Russ.
Yeah, so that'll be it then for your qualifying session for the penultimate round of the GPVWC Super League season in 2022. 71 laps will be the race round here. It seems like a long way, but this circuit isn't actually particularly long, and it's very, very fast as well. So that'll just fly by, and of course it'll fly by as well because Super League's always a lot of fun, always entertaining. And with the tension that we've got with the championship on the line, who knows what to expect coming into the race. Of course, we'll have our 10-minute warm-up session as per normal. Last chance for the drivers to make sure their setups are all in order, both on the car and on their rigs at home. Some drivers don't even bother heading out. Some like to do so. It's just personal preference. Bit of a throwaway session in all reality, but still fun nonetheless. And, well, that will be the grid before we get going for 71 laps around the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez here in virtual Mexico City. Of course, the R-Factor D doesn't quite simulate the altitude that this track has. So the appeal in real life that this track has of being 10,000 feet above sea level and the air being thinner, it's, well, a little bit lost, shall we say. But still, the racing is sure to be fantastic. As the drivers wait for the green light for the warm-up session, which comes up now. A bit of a queue at the end of the pit lane. That's a bit strange. Not used to seeing that in the warm-up session. So drivers keen to get a move on 10 minutes before we go racing. And some of the drivers already sending sparks flying out of the rear of the car. Bit of overcast over the circuit at the moment. We're not due any rain, although the weather app that we use here for GPVWC said before the racing got going that we were expecting, I believe it's 10,000 millimeters of rain during the race, which is basically a hurricane, but we think there's a problem with that. We're not expecting any rain, so don't be alarmed. And as the drivers head out, that's a little bit wide there, letting some of the other drivers through. But yeah, that'll be it for qualifying. One more qualifying session for the year yet to go, which feels very weird to say. And then after this race, one more race for the year to go, which again feels very weird to say. As you can see, just the Brazilian Grand Prix. And then that's it for 2022. Done and dusted. 3rd of November, and then we're off. Finished. Finito. That's it.
Yeah, a bit of a shame, isn't it? But I guess all good things must come to an end. And 2023 is going to be back before we know it. It's probably going to be about the same time that 2023 season starts, so around about March. A little bit of a 4-week break, but to be honest, it might make a nice change that you don't really get off seasons in other motorsport categories anymore. Formula One and NASCAR, I mean, have famously short off seasons. They're gone and then they're back again nowadays. But anyway, GPVWC, little bit more of a break, more time for drivers and teams to replenish their energy and go for it again. In 2023, we don't have the calendar for next year or anything like that. That's all going to be announced at GPVWC Day, which unfortunately I won't be able to attend this year because it is in another country and my passport is out of date. But anyway,
consolation, I can't attend either. I have another reason which I can't. I think I'm busy that weekend or something, which is a shame. But you know, that's how it is.
Yeah, you weren't there last year either. I was really looking forward to meeting you.
I can't remember why I wasn't there last year. Something.
I don't know either, but anyway.
It'll spring to my mind eventually this year. What am I doing this year? It's early December. I've got the feeling I'm doing something or other. Probably. That's a valid enough reason, I think.
Something or other, probably. Okay.
My official excuse for not being there. There you go. Sorry, guys.
It's okay. So, well, we don't have that many people in the grandstands in the game. We do have a decent audience watching along right now, nearly 40 people, which is one of the larger broadcasts that we've had this year. So, welcome everyone. We have Jake Dennehan, one of the top drivers from other championships in GPWC. Recently won a few races in FS1, did Jake Dennehan. Szymon Frelik is also here, and he of course is our broadcast director, and Szymon's still fighting for that super light championship, probably the only championship. Actually, no, I was going to say probably the only championship that's going to go down to the wire, but FS2 is technically going down to the wire as well. Anyway, we've also got Dakar 2, that's Alex Lahu. We've got Owen Harmon here, who of course will be doing the Twitter updates as well. VBM car spotted by Jake Dennehan, yes indeed. Alex Arana joining us, asking for the live timing link, which Szymon Frelik provided. Owen McGorgie's here. We have a question for you, Ross. Alex Lahu says, are you going to be commentating FS2 next Tuesday? Alex, of course, drives in the FS2.
I mean, I can if you want me to. I don't think I'm doing anything next Tuesday, so sure, why not? I mean, I think the regular commentators might have something to say about that. I know Alex was very keen for me to commentate, but I can try and negotiate, Alex. I'll see if I can hop on for the FS2 finale.
Fair enough. Jake Dennehan saying Yannick is going to fly on lap 1. Yes, probably. I mean, we've got a long run down towards turn 1, so plenty of opportunities for positions to change going down into that corner. I don't know if you saw FS1 the other day, Ross, but in race 1, Owen McGorgie, who of course is here in the YouTube chat, started P6 and was P1 by the time they got to the first corner. Crazy stuff, but it just shows you what can happen with a straight this long and with slipstream this powerful. Slightly unrealistically powerful, I'm afraid to say, at this circuit, but it does provide for some good racing. Freak is here, Andreas Waters is here, of course cheering on the Edge Esports drivers. And yes, more. Owen McCorkey saying a prediction: Yannick upside down by turn 1. Let's hope not. My goodness. Josh Downard, welcome in. Anyway, that's I've caught up with the YouTube chat, so that's good. Let's talk championship for a little bit, Ross. I know we touched on it at the start, but more people have joined in since then. Yannick Bock here today is almost definitely going to wrap up the World Championship for 2022. He just needs one more point, and that's even more likely than it would be in Formula One, because points here go down to 15th rather than 10th place, and you get a point if you finish if you get the fastest lap and finish in the top top 15, although that's fairly redundant. And Leon Bock needs to win the race and get fastest lap with his brother 16th or lower. Those conditions, I'm afraid, have never happened before in the time that they've been racing together in GPVWC. So the chance of it happening today of all days are astronomically low, I'm afraid to say. The championship is almost definitely not going to go on to Brazil. But even so, miracles do happen in racing, it seems, and the Mexico City circuit is one that throws up said miracles from time to time. Ross, do you see anything other than Yannick winning the championship today?
Well, my brain says it's hard to see anything else happening. Unfortunately for Leon Bock, I mean, the odds are very much not in his favour. But, anything could happen. I mean, he looks set to take it last round, did Yannick, before disaster struck. I mean, it could very well happen here today as well. But, even then, even if it does go to the final round again, Leon's got to take a victory. Fastest lap, hope Yannick doesn't score. So he's got a monumental challenge facing him. And even then, even if he doesn't take it, he's still in the fight for P2 for the Vice Championship. He's looking strong against Macedoniak, who, well, he's obviously missed 2 of the last 4 races he's entered. The other 2, he DNF'd, so he's been really struggling for points recently. So even then, secure a 1-2 in the championship for Evolution to be Vice Champion in 2022. I'm sure he can be happy with that result nonetheless. But of course, we act like it's a done deal, and while realistically, you got to look at the championship and think it's going to be tough for Yannick Bock not to take it this weekend. But, I'm sure Leon will still be happy with the Vice Championship. But there's still to play for at the moment. We've still got 71 laps left to run before it is, actually decided. So we'll have to wait and see if today is a championship day. But again, just looking at it, it's you can't help but feel a bit cynical for Leon Bock. It's a very, very tall order, but hopefully he can have a strong race anyway. Just go and show that even though he may not be the champion-elect at the moment, he can come in and just prove to everyone that he is one of the top drivers here in the Super League and that he deserves to be in these championship fights. And then maybe in the seasons moving forward as well, he can maybe better the Vice Championship and go forward. I mean, Leon has been fantastic this year. While he hasn't perhaps been the winningest driver, he's only taken 1 victory so far this season at the Red Bull Ring. He's been super, super consistent, constantly in the top 5. A lot of podiums along the way as well. And when it hasn't gone wrong, he's still managed to get into the points. There's only been 1 race, actually. He hasn't finished in the points this season. And that was at Silverstone where he DNF'd. So it just goes to show that consistency can bring rewards. And he's been fantastic. And, well, I'm really looking forward to what the future brings for Leon. I think he can definitely challenge for the title again in the future. Do I think he can take the title in the future? Well, who's to say for any of these drivers, but I think he can certainly be up there and fighting for it. And he's had a fantastic season, so I think he can still be happy, even if today it seems like his brother will be taking that championship, especially when you consider how close Yannick was to it in 2021. But nonetheless, I think Leon can still be happy. But Yannick Bock, I mean, he's starting 4th. All he's got to do is just cruise to the end. As long as he avoids disaster, he doesn't need a strong finish. He just needs to finish in the points and it's done. That's the easiest thing he's going to have to do all season. Obviously, he'll want to finish it with a strong result. He'll want to finish it with a win or a podium. But, just looking at it, just cruise at home. He's not starting from pole. Stefan Roth was in there with a mega lap. And is looking like the pace setter this weekend by quite some margin. But all he has to do is just, bring it home nice and chill, and he's got it in the bag.
It really does make you wonder how much of this is down to the car, how much of it is down to the drivers, and why the Bocks are so darn good. Yannick, of course, scoring podiums right from the start of this season. The 2nd and 3rd round, he was on the podium. Leon took a little longer to get started, and that's why he's not really in contention for the championship right now. Still only 1 victory to his name, but Leon is so darn consistent. He was in the top 5 every round from Bahrain through to Canada, and rarely has an off day. Leon was best of the rest last year behind the drivers who went into the championship. Into the final round in contention for the championship, finished 4th overall in the championship. And this year, of course, Actually, a similar series to last year, with the exception of that one victory, which sets this year apart from the previous year. I think he has improved slightly. I think both of them have, but it's always difficult to tell when you have so many other factors involved. It's a shame that Maciej Winnick isn't here, because the fight between Maciej and Leon would probably have gone the whole way for second in the championship. And now that Maciej is not here to score points, it realistically, actually mathematically, it can't go to the final round of the championship. Maciej would have needed to score 5 or 6 points today over Leon. So unfortunately, it looks as if Leon is at least confirmed second in the championship. Unfortunately for the neutral observer, that is. And I guess the next big thing is, can Matthias Moos get third in the championship and make it a German 1-2-3? Wouldn't that be quite something? Germany having quite a year here. Yannis Vollborn also right on the tail of the top 10 in this championship. But yeah, sorry, I'm really waffling here. What I was going to say is, how are the Bucks so good? Is it something in their genetics, or are they just in the right place? Have they put the practice in, put in the work? I'm sure they have, but yes, Yannick and Leon in a class of their own this season.
Well, I mean, if you take the very small sample size of Formula One, because that's the only one I can speak confidently about, and you look at the German world champions from 2000 to 2016, the drivers being of German nationality took the most championships by a long way. They took, 12 titles between them? Schumacher with 7, Vettel with 4, and Nico Rosberg with 1. So, it's a country that over the last 30 years has massively upped its motorsport pedigree. And I think that holds in sim racing as well, as we start to make our way onto the grid. The Bucks have just been fantastic this season, haven't they? I'm not saying, this is becoming, a German-dominated series, but, and at the end of the day, does a driver nationality really matter? Let's be honest here, but it's an interesting stat for you as we get underway on our formation lap.
Here we go then. Let's get the grid order onto the screen if we can, please, Szymon, and we can talk you through how they're starting for the 71 lap. It's a full Grand Prix distance. That is the same as they would do in real life. It's Stefan Rot starting on pole position, followed by Pascal Pollens, Yannick Bock in third, and Daniel Stepkowski. So Yannick, the champion-elect right now, if he finishes there, he wins the World Championship. Matthias Moos P5, then it's Sandeep Singh, Daniel Brewer, and Robin Pansar. So Singh jumped up the order a bit at the end of quali. Jeffrey Fournier P9, then Leon Bock, Heigo Poom, and Tom Stevens. By the way, if you were wondering about the team's championship, Evolution wrapped that one up last round. Yannis Vollborn P13, then Tomasz Vok, Jan Dragoon, and Jukka-Pekka Lali. The rest of the field coming through any second now. Chris Shepherd, Augustin Canapino, Stephen Lexo, and Mike Quinn. Stephen Lexo there in the only MDR car today, treating the end of the season as a little bit of a test session. Philip Pushke P21, Alessandro Quinte P22, and David Yunt will round out the field after failing to set a qualifying time. Those are the 23 drivers that we have here today, and 71 laps in order to sort them into an order. We have Royal and Pollens on the front row of the grid. Reigning champion Stefan Royal set to show us that he still deserves that moniker, and that he's still just as good as ever. Yannick Bock there, third place, the white car with the red and blue highlights, set to become world champion of GPVWC for the first time. Look out for both of those.
So a very stacked grid here as they make their way into the final sector on this formation lap. Stefan Roll set the pace in qualifying and set the pace from with some margin as well. Pollens, well, he may be alongside him on the grid in terms of lap times. He was quite a way off in sim racing terms. Can he try and challenge down into the turn one? Of course, it's one thing to have pace, it's another thing to have a good start and then lead away from the front. Break the slipstream, break the DRS train, which is so powerful around here with those two big long straights. Going to be interesting to see as they find their way into those grid spots. And as we wait for the field to round the final corner and then for the lights, 71 laps of racing here in virtual Mexico City. It's anyone's guess what's going to happen.
Top driver on hard tyres, Hygo Poom, P11. Top driver on medium tyres, Yannis Vorburn, P13. So those are the drivers on the alternate strategies. Tom Stevens separating them also on hard tyres. Actually just slightly missed his grid box, but he's reversed back and should be set for the start. Watch for the lights, but we really do have quite a run down to turn 1 ahead of us. 5 red lights. And when they go out, we'll be underway. And in Mexico City, it's go. Stefan Rod leads away, gets a good start. But this front down to turn 1 is longer than Liz Truss's time in 10 Downing Street. So there's plenty of opportunities for positions to change. Yannick Bock up into P2, separates him from Pascal Pollens, and Roth does maintain the lead. So it's Roth, then Bock, Pollens, Moose, and Stepkowski, the top 5. We're heading on to another long straight now. And Hygo Poom getting a little muscled out in the background. Leon Bock back up into 10th place, having briefly lost it. One car smooking, that looked like Canapino, who's overheated slightly on the grid. Into the chicane they go, and cleanly through. Oh, someone spun, and that was one of the powered by RSR cars. Oh, it's Stepkowski. He was right up the field in qualifying. So Stepkowski, being spun back from a very good qualifying position, is the first driver to find himself facing backwards. Still, everyone has their wings about them, though. And like I said, it's Vrot leading from Bock, Pollens, Moose, and Singh.
Yeah, great start there from Yannick Bock to slide into P2, and Caitlin with the perfectly timed political pun as well. But as we come round into the back section lap for the first time, Dragoon driving in, dive bomb to the inside there as well. Was that Thomas Vock, I think, trying to give it a go, and he did take the position briefly, but that was last minute on the brakes, wasn't it? Lucky to not slam into the side of Stevens and Leon Bock, who really needs to get a shift on if he wants to take this title to the final round, because currently the championship trophy already in the pocket of the number 15, Yannick Bock. And there is Leon Bock moving to the inside of Yannis Volburn, bouncing over the sausage curbs. He won't be taking the position that time there, as we see more moves throughout the field. Vock getting through, Canapino as well was trying to force his way through at turn 1. I think there may have been a bit of contact between himself and Lexau, but it will be Stefan Roll still leading, and Stefan Roll as well nearly already breaking the DRS from Yannick Bock, which he'd like to stay in that zone if he wants to keep in the fight for this lead early on. It's only lap 2, and Roll is already trying to pull the pin and bolt away at the front of the pack. Further down though, action everywhere you look. Filip Pushka trying to defend from his teammate, as we get a replay the onboard of Stepkowski from lap 1. Let's see what happens. So coming into turn 4, dives to the inside.
So at this point, he's in about 5th position, and that's Matthias Moose ahead of him. He gets touched from behind.
That's
so
unlucky.
Was that Dan Brewer who hit him from behind potentially? I'll have to have another look. Brewer is definitely in that vicinity, but Stepkowski was touched from behind and ended up spinning around. It's going to be Dan Brewer, isn't it? But did Brewer get forced into...
Oh, he got chopped across there.
There was a little bit of a chop. I can absolutely see how both of those drivers thought they were entitled to that position. Brewer, meanwhile, back up into 5th place, passing Sandeep Singh. That looked very much like a racing incident to me, just the kind of thing that happens on the first lap of a race, where one driver was up the inside, the other driver didn't really know, but also technically had had the line into the corner. Yeah, it's very much just the sort of thing that happens on the first lap of a race. The first DNF, I'm afraid, is Alessandro Quinte, so we now have 0 Pescara ADG cars in the race, as Stepkowski gains or tries to gain a place on Stephen Lexo there in the MDR car. But yes, Quinte, I'm afraid, is the first car out of this race after what looks to have been a technical disconnection. I don't think he had an accident. The car was lagging about on the straight. 22 cars remaining now, all of them still in contention, none of them losing wings coming down the pit lane, anything along those lines. So all of them still in contention for points and strong results today. Stefan Roll improving on his lap time there, not that it really matters much, but it does mean that he's broken clear of the DRS of Yannick Bock's car. DRS is active at this point in the race, and Yannick now a little bit of a sitting duck with Pascal Pollens hot on his heels.
Yeah, so it's all to play for then, as Stefan Roll bolts away at the front of the pack. Pollens in the DRS of Yannick Bock for P2. He's still a little way back, so he's got a bit of waiting to do for the time being, of course, sitting in for Thomas Harvey in Thomas Harvey's car, but doing a great job at the moment with Yannis Volburn, currently P9, trying to put the pressure on Robin Pansart for Burst Esports. Burst haven't had the greatest season by their standards, unfortunately, and a 2-race ban for Michi Hoyer as well, following Monza. I think really just put it into perspective, you know, how their season's gone, and he's a no-show this weekend as well. But Robin Pansart still doing a good job in P8 at the moment, even if he is under a little bit of pressure from the number 94 HRT driver, as we slowly but surely head onto the 5th lap of this race, as there is the other Holland Racing Team driver of Pascal Pollens right on the tail of the champion-elect, and surely close enough to activate that rear wing DRS flap, which he does so now. Will he be able to get the drag and the drive down into turn 1? He's looking fast. There's a long run down. Does he duck a nose out? I don't think he will. And no, he decides against it for the time being. So Pollens playing it safe in the early portion of this race. Just deciding to happily sit in the slipstream of Yannick Bock. There's no point trying to fight Yannick. I'm sure Pollens knows that the number 15 driver has got plenty of pace on board him this weekend, and is more than happy just to sit and follow in the early portions of this race and just maybe learn a thing or two, try and drag forward with him to better his own result, as Daniel Stepkowski continues his recovery drive up into P19 now and trying to put pressure on Canapino for 18th.
Indeed, I'm still watching the top 2, but yes, Stepkowski is coming through the field like a hot knife through butter. He's got Augustin Canapino up next, the Daytona IMSA driver from recent years. Augustin Canapino, still, I believe, the only driver here with a Wikipedia entry. And here is Pascal Pollens once again trying to line up Yannick Bock heading onto the straight. If he doesn't get past now, it's not necessarily a disaster, because yes, Stefan Roll is getting away a little, although we were expecting DRS trains to form. That's just the kind of thing that happens on a circuit like this. And pit strategy still to come into play. Every driver must pit at least once, although realistically they're going to be pitting several more times than that. Tyre wear has been surprisingly high throughout the junior categories. We had pit stops in the second race in FS1. We had 2-stop races in the first race in FS1, and we had a surprising number of pit stops in SL2 as well. So with the Super League Championship, we're expecting even more than usual, potentially 3 stops. I'm not convinced there's going to be a 4-stop strategy in play unless a driver is forced into it. I think that would be a little excessive. And I think today's 2-stop is going to be and Hygo Poom, I'm afraid, is out of the race. So Hygo Poom, who was in the points, was running about 11th position, dropping to the back of the order. And that looks to have been another disconnection, I'm afraid. So 2 drivers struggling with their connections at this early point in the race, and dropping out of it through no fault of their own. I'm not sure it was a connection issue for Hygo, actually, because he's actually been off the road and into the wall Oh, it was, yeah. So it looked initially like he was having some kind of wheel failure, and then the car disappeared into the ether. So Hygo Poom becomes the second retirement of the day, and once again, through no fault of his own. 21 drivers remaining in this race now. We're looking on board at Pascal Pollens. Ignore the Thomas Harvey sign on the halo of the car. Thomas was the original driver of that car. Yannis Volburn lining up Robin Pansart into the chicane now, and as we're about 10% of the way through this race already, the gap for the lead about 2.5 seconds. So Stefan gaining and pulling away, and here's what happened to Poom. You see him spinning off to the side of the track, and that very much a technical error on his end. I'm not sure whether it was something to do with his software or hardware or anything like that, but same effect, really. Hygo Poom not with us anymore.
Yeah, big shame there for Hygo Poom, but that is sim racing, unfortunately. Sometimes it's not your day, and a small mistake, and that'll be that for him. As we go back to the chasing pack, it very much is now, even though the man at the front of the pack is in second and is set to take the championship. As Pollens once again deciding against pulling out, he thinks that he is more than happy just to follow Yannick Bock for the time being. even with a bit of a train falling behind them, is Leon Bock, who's fallen down to 10th now. Lap after lap, corner after corner, is unfortunately seeing what little championship hopes he had left fading away as his brother sits comfortably in P2 again. In order to take the championship to the final round, Leon needs to win, take fastest lap, and hope Yannick doesn't score. It's currently lap 8, he's P10. That is a big, big ask, to put it politely, for Leon Bock, but I'm sure he's going to do his absolute best anyway, and try and capitalise on the fact that Masej Minek isn't here once again to try and establish his P2 in the championship and potentially look for a vice championship come the end of the season in a few weeks' time. Back on board with Pascal Pollens in that number 53, flying along at the moment, and well, on the back of Yannick Bock once again. He's looking a little bit closer coming through the final corners, but I don't think he's going to go for the move once again. Just judging from where he's placing his car on the racetrack, you know, how he's behaving, I don't think he's at maximum attack. Again, I think he is more than happy just to follow the champion-elect for the time being. And again, DRS not giving him that much of a gain, is behind. Position change for Dan Brewer. He slides into fourth through Matthias Moos. And the VBM Esports driver can now set his eyes potentially on the podium, 2 in front. But they've started to streak away just a little bit. So he's going to have to make that ground up in this first phase of the race. And coming into the pit stops as well. But looking very comfortable in that number 5 car. And Stefan Roll is now almost 2.5 seconds away there at one point. Of course, he's losing a little bit of time into the braking zones due to the compression of the cars in the braking zones, just, you know, how the physics of the cars work. But, you know, on the straights, he's looking at about 2.5 seconds away already. In Simracing, in GPVWC, not even 10 laps into a race, that is ridiculous pace from the reigning champion.
Now here's Tom Stevens, who just the other day wrapped up the Formula Sprint 1 championship. Tom Stevens showing what he can do in this Adonis engineering car. And a little wide there goes Leon Bock. And Tom very much using this race to his advantage so far, sticking with the, as Royal comes into the pits from the lead. So Royal pits from the lead, and that gives Yannick Bock the lead of this race overall now. What I was going to say about Tom Stevens is that even though he's on the hard tyres, he's keeping up simply because of that DRS train and because of the drivers ahead of him battling and fending each other off. So Stevens in a very good strategic position right now, as is Yannis Volburn, still the alternate strategy leader in 6th position on his medium tyres. I say the alternate strategy leader, of course, we have a couple of different alternate strategies being employed today. Yannis making a little mistake into the chicane on that lap, but he is still running okay there in P6 ahead of Sandeep Singh. Here is Stefan Rott now, out in 17th position. He's dropped a long way down the order and has bolted on the hard tyres, so Stefan going for a longer stint. And we saw this in some of the other categories as well. Hard tyres probably the order of the day, because this circuit is so unexpectedly hard on tyres. They will be running hards for as long as they possibly can, with the exception of the first stint on the softs or the mediums. Here's Jeffrey Fournier into the pits now as well from P5. So already we're into the first pit window of the race, and the fact this is happening so early shows you what I hope to demonstrate with all of this, which is, as Leon Bock is in the pits, which is that the tyre wear is particularly high here today, especially for a circuit with so many long straights. Normally you expect them to be able to cool the tyres down on the straights and give them a little bit of a breather, but here you don't really get that much time for that, because then you've got such a heavy braking zone as this, which heats up the brakes, heats up the front tyres as well. All of the car's weight is being stopped by those brakes. And then of course you have the S's, and it's not like a medium speed circuit where it all kind of balances out. This track is particularly hard on all 4 corners. Now here's Yannick Bock and Pascal Pollens coming through. Do either of these two decide to pit this time?
We'll have to see. Yannick, no. Pollens, yeah. Yes. So net second, or net third rather, judging where he comes out in regards to roll. Second place at the time, Pascal Pollens dives into the pits. He's had enough of following. Yannick and decides to come in. Let's see what tyres he goes on to. Could create an interesting strategy battle if he goes the other way to the number 1 of Stefan Roll, as we wait to see the tyres magically change colour. And he's onto another set of soft tyres. Okay, so Pollen's deciding for a shorter second stint. So as Stefan Roll is a long way in front of him, so the undercut has worked. Well, I said the undercut, Roll was in front of him earlier, but he's gained massively on that fresh rubber. Pollen's, of course, will have the pace on those soft tyres. So that's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds in the next few laps. And now we turn our eyes, when does Yannick Bock come in?
Lap 12 of 71 now, and David Yunt, the fastest driver of all, starting from the very back of the grid. And I think he's had an early pit stop, actually. So David Yunt may be going for the fastest lap strategy. He's bolted on the soft tyres, which is quite rare for an early pit stop. Normally you expect drivers to go straight onto the hard tyres and then do a long stint, but anyway. And into the pits now comes Yannick Bock. So Yannick cooling in from the lead of the race. Dan Brewer will retake the lead. I say retake, I mean he will take the lead. Dan has not led a lap in a few races. Yannis Fulben through into P2. He will presumably lead the race before long because other drivers around him are going to stop. And he is on a medium set of tyres, so will stay out for longer. And Yannick is on another set of softs, unless my screen deceives me. So Yannick here, as he exits the pits and gets passed by Pascal Pollens, who was behind him before this all started. Yannick stays ahead of Steven Lexo. There has been a swap between the two of them, and now he's showing us being on hards. So it looks if my screen is deceiving me. It still looks like he's on softs to me, but I think the broadcast machine is a little more trustworthy. Sometimes the tyres do appear to change kind of mid-lap. Anyway, Pascal Pollens has jumped him, so whatever the case, Pollens is through. And now Yannick is showing us having hard tyres, so indeed it was my screen playing up on me. And that means that there's no strategy weirdness going on here. That was just a straight jump from Pascal Pollens.
Yeah, great job there from Pollens. Seems like the undercut is pretty powerful round here, but again, Pollens on that soft compound tyre, unless again we've had that R factor 2 moment and he's actually on the hards and it's just switched for us. As Volburn now takes the lead as Brewer dives in as well. So it could be an interesting next phase of the race. Again, these drivers were expecting a 3-stopper to be the order of the day. It's pretty abrasive, this track surface. So again, the race is not over yet. Strategy still looking to take play, but the undercut does look powerful around here as Jukka-Pekka Lalu fighting with Canapino and Stefan Rolt, who's just gone back through. Again, the driver's in front of Rolt yet to pit. He is in the net lead of the race. So we'll have to wait and see where all those guys come out. Are they trying to play it long? I'd assume Thomas Vock isn't, because he's on the medium compound of tyres. So he shouldn't be out a ridiculous amount longer. And Rolt on looking very, very fast this evening, of course. Took the pole by a considerable margin on a fresh set of the hard compound tyres. It should be easy work to get past Thomas Vock, as I believe Robin Pansar has now come in. Either that or Jan Dragoon has passed him.
Dragoon passed him in the S's, so I think Pansar made a mistake there.
Maybe.
Because that's an unusual place to make a move, especially with Pansar being on soft tyres. I think his soft tyres are probably going off at this point in the race, because he was having a really tough time of it through the S's that time, and Jan Dragoon was able to fly through. Stefan Ruhl has the C's part for him there, as in come Robin Pansar and Tomasz Vock now. And Ruhl has about 3 cars now between himself and Pascal Pollens behind. He is gaining a real advantage in this race, having been one of the earliest cars to have stopped. And there is Pansar, as I expected, his tyres were going off. Decided to leave it out there for quite a long time on those softs. Not sure if it's going to necessarily work out, because I think the soft tyres are too soft for this circuit. Comes out side by side with the other green stripes car of Mike Quinn. And Yannick Bock now gets past Pascal Pollens. And that seems to have happened in traffic. So they had traffic, and Yannick was able to use it to his advantage to get through on Pascal Pollens. And we're going to see a replay of that now and work out what happened. So here is So it looks as if Pushkir there was under attack from Pollens. So Pollens was having a go at Pushkir up ahead and went to the inside of the chicane. And my screen's a little frozen there. Oh, and there was contact! There was contact between the two of them, and off went Pushkir, allowing Yannick Bock to go through into the lead. Or, not the lead, sorry, but the lead of that particular scrap. Into the pits now comes Yannis Volburn, so Tom Stevens will lead the race on his hard tyres, ahead of Jan Dragoon, who gets passed by Stefan Roth. So Stefan back up into P2, down into turn 1 now. But yes, Tom Stevens, the FS1 champion of this season, is leading the Super League race, having his time in the sun. And just to show you how much of an advantage Stefan has now, he is up in 2nd position, and Yannick Bock is 5.5 seconds back in 6th position. So not only has he lost a significant amount of time in the pit stages here, but he's also got some cars to clear before he gets back onto the tail of Stefan Roth, and presumably he won't be able to pass all of them with them coming into the pits. He may have to actually overtake some on track as well. He'll hope they pit for sure. However, hard tyres, the order of the day, so these drivers will be wanting to stay out for as long as they can on those hards, I expect. It might prevent them from having to make another stop in the future. Here's Pollens on the back of Pushkir. And we saw how this ended the first time around. So hopefully he can do it a bit cleaner this time.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see as Pollens keeps pushing with the DRS. Will he go for the dive this time? He seemed pretty cautious down into turn 1, but he's got the draft all the way to the outside through turn 1. And that is a very nice move from Pascal Pollens round the outside at turn 1 on the fresh rubber. That's how it's done. Moves into P7 on board with Jeffrey Fournier. Also trying to follow Pollens through. It could be 2 places in 4 corners for Pushkir as he drops down to P9th. Disaster for him as Fournier moves through Stephen Lexau. Also trying to put the pressure on as someone was very wide there in the background. And that was Dan Brewer. Maybe just missing his braking into the left-hander, but managed to get going. It was Volburn, sorry, but he's all okay. Just maybe making a bit of a mistake, maybe a metre or 2 too late in the braking. Such fine margins needed here in GPVWC. These guys are operating on the absolute limit. You make the slightest mistake and it can really punish you, but luckily Volburn all okay. Jukka-Pekka Laulu currently running 4th, yet to box. Started on that hard compound of tyre and doing a good job at the moment, but he's soon to come under pressure from Canapino, and then surely the flying Bock and Pollens on that fresher rubber. There is Bock and Pollens at the back of the shot now, and here is Jukka-Pekka Laulu maybe going for a move down into turn 1. No, decides against making that dive, but still looking fast nonetheless is the number 10 driver Daniel Brewer now to the inside of Chris Shepherd. Very easy move on the brakes. Mexico City perhaps not a place for flashy and showy overtakes. It's a very technical circuit. It's all about just hitting your mark, setting up the move and then getting it right, and just doing what you do best. On the brakes up the inside is Yannis Volburn to the inside of Lexo. There you go, gets it done with the DRS. Nice little move there as well from the number 94. It is Tom Stevens that leads this race as we go back to Jukka-Pekka Laulu, but Stefan Roll in the net lead. Stevens yet to box from the lead on lap 18 of 71.
You bring up a good thing about the overtakes there, how it's not necessarily good to go for really flashy ones, because, I mean, when you think of good overtakes, you normally think of spectacular, Mansell around the outside of Berger in 1990 at the final corner here, or something like that. Moves where it makes you catch your breath a bit. But realistically, the best overtakes are the ones that cost you the least amount of time, which are the ones that happen on the straights, where you just flash past your opponents and go off into the distance. They don't require necessarily as much skill or bravery, but they can be just as important or more important. And like I said, they cost you less time. Matthias Muster passing Philip Pushkir. And yeah, this circuit is a real example of that, because if you do pull a move on the straight, that means you don't have to sit behind your opponent in the corners, so you don't have to lose time dealing with the turbulent air, and therefore you can maybe pass someone else on the next straight or start to pull away on the next straight if you are indeed faster. Is Chris Shepherd on the back of Yannis Vorburn into the S's, and this is where you get held up if you don't manage to make your move on the straights, unless of course you're Jan Dragoon, and then you get to pass in the S's sometimes, but he was rather helped by Robin Pansar's mistake earlier on. Stefan Ruralt, by the way, 2 seconds behind Tom Stevens now as Jukka-Pekka Lalu comes into the pits, but Ruralt still gaining time on the other drivers that are fighting him in the net order. Pascal Pollens catching back up to Yannick Bock now. Yannick going for a move on Augustin Canapino, or will do soon. And this is the fight for what could eventually turn out to be second here, Russ.
Yeah, it could be very much so. Of course, a few drivers yet to box up the front of the field. As we see there, Dan Brewer as well. That DRS train coming into full effect. And have to wait and see once the pit stop phases have cycled out who is where on the track. It's shaken up the order just a little bit, has this first phase of pit stops. A lot of the early soft runners getting caught up along with the hard shed runners from the get-go. So going to be interesting to see who's lost time, who's gained time. As Yannick Bock under pressure once again from Pollens. Of course, Pollens did jump him in the pit stop cycle with a cheeky little undercut, but Yannick Bock flew straight right past. But now Pollens once again sticking onto his gearbox and seemingly pretty happy just to follow him for the time being. Again, all that matters is where you are. Once the checkered flag falls, you can more than happily just follow another driver and then get them at the line. And, you know, that's the position. You don't have to fight with them all race long. As Bock now with the DRS. Will he have a dive on Canapino? Will Canapino have a dive on Dragoon? Canapino's going to have a go on Dragoon. I think Bock's too far back. Canapino gets through Dragoon there with a nice late braking manoeuvre. As Bock will have to settle for P5 for the time being. As Vorburn trying around the outside, sweeping through in the number 94. Great move there. Yannick Bock under threat from Pollens. Once again, Pollens going left then right, then decides against it. As Jan Dragoon problems there. He's going very slowly. He's going to get done by Vorburn as well. So problems for Jan Dragoon. Maybe he's made a mistake somewhere, but I'm not sure. That car doesn't look happy.
Yeah, he got caught out on the sausage curb on the extra turn 2. He's very lucky to still have a front wing, actually, because he hit the wall at quite an angle. And here's a replay of what's just taken place. He was running right up the order. Now watch this. Whoa, spins it around, hits the wall, and in real life that would be a mangled front left suspension, as well as just the wing coming off. He has got some slightly damaged steering, I think. No, the steering still looks straight. I'd be surprised if he didn't have any handling issues at all right now, but anyway. Meanwhile, Pascal Pollens is right back past Yannick Bock again. I watched him on the straight. Oh, Bock's having trouble, and I'm having trouble. My internet. Do you guys still hear me? This is a. Oh wait. Oh, you do? Okay. Sorry, just had a massive freeze on both the screen and the server. Pollens now passing Canapino, so he gets a car between himself and Bock. And but yes, they swap places. So that is the move for what could eventually turn out to be second position. And it happened at an unusual point on the circuit. It looked as if Yannick... Oh, I've just had a look back at it, sorry, as you watch Vorburn versus Matthias Moos. Oh, Vorburn ran the outside of Matthias Moos. Good move there. But yes, Yannick went way too deep into the chicane after the second long straight. And had to kind of weave the car a little to get it back under control. You're about to see a replay of that. And Pollens was able to dash up the inside in the hole that Yannick left. There's the incident for Jan Dragoon. And it happened right after this. You see Yannick with the DRS just going too deep. Obviously just didn't predict the speed that his car was going well enough into the corner. And off he went.
Yeah, easy as that, isn't it? Stefan Ruralt into P2 now. Tom Stevens still yet to box, so he's in the net lead. The race as Bock goes through on Canapino. So, moving through, there goes the champion-elect. What a shame, though, there, as we carry on going around. Pollent's just flying on through. Leon Bock also making places. So moves everywhere you look around this Mexico City circuit. Of course, I guess the advantage of R-Factor 2 not simulating the 10,000 foot altitude of this track in the thinner air levels as a result. You can just take full advantage of the DRS, which, of course, with the thinner air level doesn't work as well as, you know, like basic physics. I mean, you know, not to be too condescending or anything. Hello and welcome if you're just joining us on lap 23 of 71 here at the penultimate round of the GPVWC Super League season of 2022. It's been a very enjoyable race so far, with Stefan Roll in the net lead of the race as it stands and being the pace setter by quite some margin, with Yannick Bock, who you're just seeing at the front of your frame there, in P3 in the net race. Tom Stevens in the lead, yet to pit, with one hand on the championship trophy. Looks set to wrap it up today, pending a disaster. Of course, if you haven't already, make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, all of that malarkey. It really helps out everybody here at GPVWC as Dan Brewer goes for a move and gets it done before the braking zone on Canapino. And well, 24 out of 71 laps, well, 23 laps completed on lap 24. Still a long way to go in this race, but already I think the story is the pace of Stefan Roll and the inevitable championship, it would seem at this point, of Yannick Bock.
And a bit of a dive there, actually, from Matthias Moose, but they make it through. Now, from Wilburn, sorry. Now, Tom Stevens, who's still leading this race, has some really good pace here, actually, and some insane consistency. The last 10 laps of the race, he's been in the 117, so that's consistency for you. That's what you've got to be aiming for. And that's not particularly that much slower than Stefan Roll is going. With fresher tyres here. Roll has pitted, Stevens hasn't. Now, that means it's actually going to be fairly difficult for Stefan to get past Stevens on the road, and it also means that Stevens isn't necessarily going to need to pit anytime soon. I mean, we know he's going to have to eventually, and later on in this race he's going to have to use a different compounded tyre as well, but right now, Stevens is looking very comfortable out there, and I really feel that he could be a real contender in this race. Not necessarily to win it, admittedly, as Yannis Wilburn there gets Augustin Canapino, or, yes, he has got through. Yes, not necessarily to win it, because Stefan Roll is doing everything that he needs to right now. But Tom could certainly be a contender for a higher result than he might have expected at the start of this thing. He was running just outside of the top 10 earlier on, and I was complimenting him there about how he'd made the best of his start with the hard tyres, and now he's continuing to lap on those same hard tyres all of these laps later. And Stefan Roll now actually losing a bit of time to Pascal Pollentz in all of this as well, losing a couple of seconds so far. Gap is about 5 seconds maybe. Let's see how far it comes down before Tom Stevens comes into the pits. Surely Roll's going to be able to make a move soon, but like I said before, it's not going to be as straightforward as he would have hoped here, Russ. Oh, never mind. He's going to slipstream his way through on the straight. I eat my words.
Oh, there you go. Roll back into the lead of the race. Stevens will surely be boxing sooner rather than later. He's got a long way on that hard compound of tyres from the lights going out. As Daniel Brewer under pressure as well. Canapino still trying to put up a fight as well. So a few drivers still yet to box. Yeah, Rolt gets through on Stevens. Pollentz starting to establish himself in P3, net P2 as well from Yannick Bock in P4. So the race starting to settle down for the time being. It's now just a battle of strategy and keeping the wheels on the grey stuff and not running off the tarmac, not making mistakes. And well, it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds on lap 26 of 71. And, well, should be interesting how it all unfolds. See there the battle for fourth place. Of course, Yannick Bock fighting for the championship. Looks set to take the championship at the moment. And as well, this is net P3 fighting for as well, because Tom Stevens is yet to box after starting on the harder compound of tyres, running that alternate strategy, and still not boxing as well. So, going to be interesting to see how this all unfolds. Fournier, I think, will be too far back to challenge with DRS this time. Dan Brewer certainly won't be. I mean, look at the speed from Dan Brewer. That is as easy as they come.
Yeah, made it look easy, didn't he? Despite the DRS from Fournier's car. And into the pits comes Canapino from further back. Also Philip Pushke in now. Now, meanwhile, Tom Stevens still out there, presumably on a two-stop strategy now. I think Stefan and the other drivers around him, so Pascal, Yannick, etc., are probably on three stops here. But Tom Stevens has run these hard tyres for so long that I can't see him stopping anytime in the immediate future. I don't see him stopping this lap, for example. And I think he may be able to continue on and put himself on the road to a two-stopper. And if he does as well, like I said before, could be a real contender in this race, because not only is he being consistent and safe out there, but he's being consistently fast. I mean, like I said, he's still in the 117s every single lap here. The only exception was the lap where he was passed by Stefan, where he dropped briefly into the low 118s. But even then, you know, losing half a second in that circumstance is not half bad. So yeah, keep your eye on Tom Stevens in this race. Definitely the top driver on the alternate strategy right now. And I'm struggling to notice actually if anyone else is going for a two-stop strategy out there. When did Geoffrey Fournier pit? I'll check up on that real quick. Geoffrey pitted lap 11, so that was about the same time as the others around him in this race, about the same time as Brewer and Bock. Brewer and Bock, by the way, almost engaged in combat by the look of things. I think they will be soon, because Pascal Pollens has been pulling away. I wonder how much time Pollens lost when Yannick passed him earlier on.
Yeah.
Lots to play for still in this race for us, isn't there?
Yeah, no, I mean, we lap 20 out of 71, starting to kind of get into the mid portion of the race. And, on the surface, it would seem that, it's, well, I don't mean to be condescending, but it's the kind of like that boring phase where everyone's sort of 2 seconds apart. It's just waiting for the next phase of pit stops. But there's still lots to play for. Lots of different drivers, in different places, out of position. There's still a few pit stops yet to be done as well. Eyes on Tom Stevens in P2, for example. He is yet to make a pit stop and is utilising that ultimate strategy absolutely superbly. As there we see Stepkowski comes in the RSR car from P13. Let's see what tyres he goes on to.
Yep, Daniel Stepkowski on another recovery drive on a set of hards. Had that spin earlier on in this race, and I guess there's another hypothetical for you. What would Daniel Stepkowski be doing right now if he hadn't had that incident? Of course, we'll never know, and even looking at lap times won't really tell us, because yes, I mean, his lap times been quick, some of the quickest out there, but would they have been if he was, stuck in the traffic fighting for P5 or 6? Not necessarily. So we don't know if he would have got those positions or not. I guess it really does depend. Pascal Pollens now, trying to reel in Tom Stevens himself. And into the pits comes Tom Stevens. So lap 30, that is, yeah, like I said before, that's pretty much exactly when you would have expected him to pit to go onto a two-stopper. Because 30 laps on one set of hards and 30 laps on another leaves him about 11 laps on soft tyres. Unless he decides to go for a different compound now to get them out of the way, but he does go onto another set of hards, so he will presumably pit later on for a quick stint on softs. Stevens now exiting the pit, so that puts Pollens and Yannick Bock back up into second and third. Stevens is 14th now, comes out just behind Tomasz Bock, but that's not hugely representative. Still plenty more to come in this race from Tom Stevens, mark my words. And that means we're probably about to get the second pit window soon. If you think about it, if Stevens was able to run 30 laps on those hards, and the leaders came in on lap 10 earlier on in this race to set up for a potential 3-stopper, then they're likely to run maybe 22, 23 laps. So they'll be coming in anytime soon. Of course, there's also a possibility that people are looking at Stevens' strategy and thinking, actually, you know what, we probably could go for a two-stopper now. These hards are working for us, but we'd have to go onto a... we'd have to go into hards kind of the whole way through. And that could also throw another bit of a spanner in the works. Dan Brewer on the back of Yannick Bock. Normally in these races where a driver can wrap up the championship, we talk about them having everything to lose and not really having to fight for it or whatever. But in this circumstance, as Tom Stevens does get past Thomas Bock, and in this circumstance, Yannick is so far ahead in the championship and so much for lock-in for the title as it stands that, I mean, he can treat it as if he's already won the thing, I'd say. It doesn't really matter that he's... doesn't really matter that he might have an accident with Dan Brewer, because even if he does, he would still win the championship.
Well,
what do you make of that, Ross?
Anything can happen in motorsport, so let's not just assume just yet. But well, as it stands, it's safe to say that Yannick Bock has got one hand on the trophy and is certainly reaching for it with the second hand as well. He needs to just finish inside the points, and if disaster strikes and he ends up outside of the points for whatever reason, his brother Leon needs to win and take fastest lap, and currently that is not happening as Pollens comes in for his second stop. We know he's running shorter stints than the likes of Yannick Bock, and he boxes from second place. Comes in very aggressive angle there on the way out. I assume will be another set of the hard tyres for Pascal Pollens. And it is indeed, as he heads back out, presuming that R-Factor 2 isn't doing an R-Factor 2 thing and showing us the wrong compound. And he's going to come out behind Tom Stevens, which is interesting. So Tom Stevens making that long early stint work.
Oh, and Robin Pansar is going for a spin. He's lost his front wing. So Pansar has knocked off his front wing against the barrier there. And I didn't see how that started, but that is the point on the track with the nasty sausage curb. So there's a good chance that he's hit that and spun it. Although he was also fighting with Sandeep Singh here, and he was on the outside line. Keep an eye on this through the S's. There's going to be contact somehow. There it is, and around he goes. So Singh also ended up facing backwards in that. I think he was avoided, so that's good to see. But yeah, two cars spinning around. Tom Stevens now back into the top 10. He has the fastest lap of the race, and like you said, has got out ahead of Pascal Pollens. And although Pascal on significantly newer tyres, it's going to hold up Pascal. It's good news for both Yannick Bock and Stefan Roth here. Now, the interesting thing about this is that Pascal has obviously seen an opportunity to go for an undercut here. But if another driver sees a chance to go for a two-stopper now, if Yannick or Stefan see a chance to go for a two-stopper, then they could actually split the strategies at this point in the race, and surprise Pascal Pollens completely, make the undercut irrelevant. And whether they will do that or not remains to be seen. I definitely still think a two-stopper is possible for those top few.
I mean, Tom Stevens is going to have to do a mega stint. You know, he's the one I've got my eyes on for the two-stopper.
Stevens is definitely on the two-stopper for sure. No, Stevens is definitely on that. It's just Royal, Bock and Brewer that I'm wondering about right now. Possibly Fournier-Vauban as well. Those drivers are in a bit of an awkward situation right now where they could go for a three-stopper or a two-stopper, and both are going to be difficult in their own ways.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting portion of the race where it's, you know, all about strategy right now. You know, can you jump onto that two-stopper and make it work, or are you now committed to the three-stopper? There's no leeway, of course, no safety cars in GPVWC. You can't use that to your advantage either. As Stevens dives to the inside, Onyeka Pekalalu gets the move done nice and clean. Good job there from the number 4. And as he gets his way going, of course, on that fresher rubber, he'll be looking to move further forward again. I think Stevens is definitely the biggest front rubber on that strategy as Pollens makes a dive bomb on Onyeka Pekalalu, who loses 2 places in 4 corners. Again, though, Pollens on a much fresher set of tyres. But what we have seen, though, for the 3-stoppers, it's definitely beneficial to stop earlier. So Yannick Bock perhaps trying just to drag this stint out as long as he can because he knows that he's going to lose out on the place to Pollens on the two-stopper, to, you know, just try and give himself as fresh of a set of tyres as possible come the final two stints, and maybe use that to his advantage on pure pace, as now he's under attack from Dan Brewer, who with the DRS could be looking at a move into P2 here on the champion-elect heading down to turn one. He's got the draft, he's got the DRS, but I don't think he's going to go for the move. And he does not in the end. But a lot of speed being closed out. Dan Brewer definitely on the attack on the Yannick Bock at the moment.
And there goes Pascal Pollens passing Tom Stevens. He suddenly realised that Tom is now a very important driver in his race. He needed to get past there in order to get the clean air. And we knew that he could. I mean, he's on fresher tyres, and Pascal has been quicker for the majority of the day, but actually doing it was going to be a tough ask. Tom Stevens, though, still on a different strategy to Pascal, who looks very committed to the three-stopper. Definitely the most committed to the three-stopper of all of the leaders in this race, the traditional leaders. So, even though that move has been made, it's not over yet necessarily. I do still think Pascal has the strategic advantage over Tom, but the gap between the two of them probably closing every lap, with Stevens this consistent and fast. Here are Yannick Bock and Daniel Brewer in the fight for second position in this race. And fastest lap now goes to Pascal Pollens. So Pollens not only slipstreaming his way past Tom Stevens, but slipstreaming his way straight to a fastest lap. Those two of the only drivers in the 115s in this race so far, along with Stepkowski and Shepherd. And there's a yellow flag out there somewhere. David Yunt, I'm afraid, appears to have spun off to the side of the road. This is always going to be a tough race for him to finish. He's now lost his front wing against the wall. And that was on the exit turn 3, so Yunt's hit the same wall that Pansar did, although continues in this race. Pollens now on the back of Leon Bock.
Yeah, so Pollens is flying at the moment on that fresh head of rubber, so going to be interested to see when Leon Bock, or Yannick Bock rather, does decide to pit where he comes out. He's ending the stint run a lot longer as we follow around the number 53 on camera. He's just looking for a way through, can't seem to find it through the final S's section as we go once again with Dan Brewer onto lap 37. Won't be close enough for a move this time, but once again just closing up that little bit more lap after lap after lap. Pollens will be close enough for a move on Leon Bock, and Tom Stevens as well may be close enough to him, but although I don't think he will be, as Pollens will surely be ducking out in a moment, pulls to the inside, and will have the brakes as well. Yes, he does. Pascal Pollens moves past the man who is seeing his championship hopes fade further and further away. Pollens moves back into P6. Great pace from the number 53 this weekend. You know, he's in a very good position to get a very strong result this weekend, as long as the strategy works out okay. He's clearly got a different way to Yannick Bock at this point, who's trying to counter the pace of the Holland Racing Team driver. But he's doing a great job right now down in P6. We just need to wait and see, you know, when do the other front runners box.
And Yannis Vorburn came into the pits that last lap, so that's given them another position. And the interesting thing about that is that he's got about 34 laps left, which, I mean, is that doable on hard tyres? Presumably, because Tom Stevens did 30, and of course 34, not that much longer, especially with less fuel. But it is quite a long stint, it really is. It's kind of, again, it's that awkward position between the two. You know, what do you do at that point? Do you pit again for another set of softs towards the end? I personally think Vorburn is going to be trying to go to the end on that, so I think that he is now on a two-stop strategy. On the back of Tomasz Vok, and fighting with Tomasz Vok on corner exit. There they are. And through as well goes Daniel Stepkowski on his recovery. But it's good to see that even at this point in the race, it's still quite open in terms of strategy. You can absolutely still decide to go for a 2 or 3 stop strategy. I knew that 1 stops would be off the table. They were not very possible today. But even at this late stage, we don't know what everyone's doing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds. But, yeah, yeah. Don't think I really need to add any more to that, do I? It's strategy is it's all what it's all about today, as we're coming up to the final 30 laps of this race. And Yannick is taking a very, very long second stint, and I think he might just be trying to make the two-stopper work, which is aggressive and bold, to say the least, as Stefan Rolt seemingly does the same. Pollens clearly holding faith in the three-stopper, as Tom Stevens looks to make a move on Leon Bock. Should make a move. I mean, look how close he is with the DRS as well. Can the number 4 get through him? He's going to have to go the long way around the outside at turn 1. Can he be later on the brakes? Leon is slightly later, maybe the switchback as Leon runs deep, and yep, Tom Stevens pressuring the man in P2 in the championship into a mistake and gets through there, and that leaves Leon under threat as well from Jukka-Pekka Laulu behind, as we get a replay of that overtake on board with Tom Stevens, bearing in mind that Leon Bock on the dirty side of the track as well, on older rubber, just trying to brake later, then outbrakes himself. Tom Stevens slides through. He himself actually misses the braking, the apex bit, but that may have been just to allow potentially Leon Bock to make the corner, which is what I think that was going to happen. Well, it didn't happen, so shame there for Leon Bock, as Daniel Brewer will once again try on Yannick Bock, but again, shouldn't be close enough, I don't think. He's just in that gap where he's close, but not quite close enough, as David Yunt there with the fastest lap time, a 1:14.495. Strong pace from Yunt, who's currently down at the back end of the field. And apparently he's been in the pits for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Yeah. Not sure what's going on there. Daniel Brewer unable to make the move this time, as Volbon gets through Jukka-Pekka Laulu, who actually dives into the pits.
Yeah, well, what that is for Yunt is that he's given up. He had that incident when he was already in last position. So right now he's just going for fastest lap, kind of like he did earlier on, but I think he's properly given up on the idea of points right now. Even so, it's a good way to ensure that you see the checkered flag. I always like to see that in FS2 races when I lose out early on in the race. I tend to just see the checkered flag, go as fast as I can. I've never set the fastest lap in FS2, but I've tried to improve my personal best laps, if that makes sense. Here's Pascal Pollens now on the back of Matthias Moos. Anyone who pits at this point in the race for a new set of hard tyres will undoubtedly go to the end, and that will probably be the majority. Yes, so into the pits now comes Stefan Roll and Geoffrey Fournier. So now the second pit window well and truly open. And I misjudged how long the hard tyres were actually going to go for, because it looks as if the majority of the drivers are going to be going for a two-stopper. Pollens now to the inside of Matthias Moos. Oh, that's going to be a bit of a grudge match into the corner. But yes, Pascal Pollens does get out ahead. And there is Stefan Roll, just behind Yannis Volburn. Yannis Volburn, the teammate of Pascal Pollens, so keep your eye on that. There's Geoffrey Fournier behind Chris Shepherd. These two have history, plenty of it. But yeah, like I was saying, there are a lot more two-stoppers in this race than I was anticipating, and we're only seeing that kind of later on in the race because of how long they've been able to run these hard tyres. They're going to do it again. They're going to go all the way to the end. Good dive there from Geoffrey Fournier, back up into 9th position, Russ.
Yeah, nice little move there from Geoffrey Fournier to get back into P9. Fournier, a driver who has definitely impressed this season, as Yannick Bock now makes the dive, as does behind him Daniel Brewer. So Pollens will take the lead of the race, but yeah, Bock and Brewer come in. So let's see what tyres they're going to. Presumably it's the hards once again.
But Pollens has put himself on a strange late strategy here. I think he was expecting everyone to go for a three-stopper, because Pollens was rather committed to that, it seemed. And now he's like, oh, well, I'm leading the race, but at what cost? Anyway, into the pits, Yannick Bock and Dan Brewer, both for new sets of hard tyres, as expected. And out onto the road they go. Still quite close between the two of them. They went for the undercut. Doesn't look as if they've jumped anyone in particular. Has Fournier's undercut them. Sorry, I understand what you're saying now, Szymon. Yes, Szymon pointing out that Geoffrey Fournier was behind those two before this all happened. And yes, you're absolutely right. Shepard's got between them as well. But yes, Geoffrey Fournier jumping a few of the drivers around him, very much on course for a podium here. And he actually pitted on the last lap around. So with 30 laps to go, Geoffrey Fournier came in. And he's now ahead of Yannick Bock and Dan Brewer here. Brewer back ahead of Shepard. Got him on the exit of the hairpin. So at this point in the race, it's Pascal Pollins leading from Moose, Stevens, Vorburn, Rural, Stepkowski, Fournier, Bock, Brewer, and Shepard. That's all going to be shaken up by the end of this race as well. And my predicted finishing order, as Matthias Moose comes into the pits, I mean, it's very difficult to tell, but I'm going to say Rural first, Fournier second, Bock third at this point, with Tom Stevens maybe a close fourth. But like I said before, so tricky to tell because of all the different strategies. Moose now onto another set of hards, coming out a bit of a way behind this bunch. I think he's lost a bit of time in all of this. And Fournier passing Stepkowski for P5. So Fournier gaining another position on a driver on another alternate strategy.
Yeah, so Fournier really moving at this phase of the race. Dan Brewer looking for a way through, unable to find it on Yannick Bock. Again, this race is just a jumble of strategies, isn't it? We're just waiting to see who's going to be able to move through. You know, come the last 5 laps, realistically, is when we'll really have our final order coming to the line. No one really knows what everyone's doing. There's such a mishmash of when drivers are coming in, whether on the 2-stopper or the 3-stopper. We all thought it was going to be 3 or 4 stoppers, but they're making it work. That's why they're out there in the Super League and we're in the commentary booth. And Daniel Brewer once again putting Yannick Bock under a lot of pressure as Bock tries to move forward through Stepkowski and Fournier. Fournier, of course, absolutely shifting at the moment. Dan Brewer looking a lot closer than he has on previous laps. Maybe he'll get his chance with the DRS, as there is Yannis Vorburn closing on Tom Stevens, but not by enough, surely. But no, he actually is, because he's got to pull to the inside. He's got a huge boost of speed, and he's got enough speed to duck back onto the racing line before the braking zone. He'll take P2. Yannick Bock will take P6. Dan Brewer won't follow him. So that's Vorburn into P2, Yannick Bock into P6. Changes afoot here on lap 44 of 71.
To put the record straight, I never said that there were going to be 4 stoppers, but I did say 3 stoppers were going to potentially be the order of the day, and they haven't been quite as prevalent as I thought they would be. There are still going to be some 3 stops out there, but yes, looks if the 2-stopper is the preferred strategy at this point in time, which does make sense, because even though the 3 stoppers may be faster from a theoretical point of view, there are a lot of other factors that play into it, such as driver comfortability and getting held up by other cars on track, and all of that, which play into it and make it so that sometimes pitting less is actually a better way to go about it. Dan Brewer on the back of Daniel Stepkowski. Onto another lap we go. It's Holland Racing Team 1 and 2 for the time being, with Tom Stevens in the DRS of Yannis Vorburn, and Brewer making the move on Stepkowski now. Stepkowski, I still think, is going to be about 10th or 11th place by the end of this, which is a decent recovery drive from being spun around on the opening lap, although it would still have been better if that hadn't happened for him, obviously. Stefan Roth with a little bit of traffic up ahead. And that's not really lap traffic, it's Tom Stevens there, so he's going to have to pass him and Yannis Vorburn on the road.
Yeah,
going to sweep as we go.
Gonna have to make some moves as we get later on into this race. Stefan Roth was in the lead earlier, now P4, but seemingly on a 2-stopper, so he should be going to the end.
And but Stevens isn't expected to stop for another 14 laps or so.
Yeah, so it's just, who knows what's going on with strategy at this phase of the race. It seems like Vorburn not being cork in the bottle per se. It may actually be Stevens who's doing that role. I don't think Rolt's going to be close enough to challenge down into turn 1, but I've been proven wrong on this before, and it looks like I'm going to be proven wrong again, because Rolt has got the pace up the inside on the brakes. Super smart move from the number 1 of Stefan Rolt to move into P3. But reminded that Pollens in the lead, still yet to stop, as is Volben in front of Rolt, so he is in the net lead of this race. Who knows what's going on?
Now, Toby Davis, interestingly, in the broadcast team chat here, says that he still expects Pascal Pollens to win this race. He says that he'll have 10 seconds to make up on fresh rubber in the last stint, and over 20 laps, that's 0.5 seconds per lap. Now, that may be true, but you still have to pass drivers who are fighting hard to maintain their positions, so I'm not necessarily convinced. Admittedly, of course, Toby has got more data than I have. He's told me that pit delta is 21 seconds, for example, and I didn't know that. But I am not necessarily convinced that Pascal Pollens is going to be able to catch back up. He's got a chance for a podium, sure. Don't get me wrong, but I think a win is a little bit of a dramatic prediction. What do you think, Ross?
I think we're just going to have to wait and see. Honestly, at this phase in the race, I mean, most of the GPVWC races, you can kind of gauge who's going to be in the running. At this point here in Mexico City, I have no idea. On board with Daniel Brewer as he's trying against Yannick Bock, drawing closer, pokes nose to the inside, but won't quite have the pace. Yannick is clearly running a very low downforce setup, such as his pace on the straight. We've just seen him flying through the traffic, and even with the DRS, Dan Brewer unable to make a gap up here. But yeah, I honestly have no idea who's going to win this race. We're on lap 47 of 71, and I still think it's anybody's to win or to lose.
It's one of the things I love about racing. It's not an exact science. If it was, the same person would win every single time. It would be the fastest driver, obviously. But in this, it's not that straightforward. You don't necessarily see the fastest driver winning every time. You also have all of these strategies to put into play, and sometimes you literally cannot tell until the very end of the race. So keep your eye on it. We have Pascal Pollens still leading by 5 seconds from Yannis Volben. Stefan Roll is in third position, and the fact that this race has done 48 laps doesn't really affect much, because it's still like we are right at the start, still making our predictions and asking our queries. Here comes Dan Brewer. A little bit of a late move there from Yannick Bock. A little bit risky, but he's okay. And now getting back in the slipstream again in the DRS, goes to the left-hand side.
Oh, go on, to the inside. Oh, just not quite. Yannick Bock, great defending, able to hold on. Can Dan Brewer try the switch back? They're going to bang wheels, surely. Yannick Bock forced out. Lovely move by Daniel Brewer, P6.
Got underneath him just like he needed to, and that's pretty much checkmate through that sector. Here's a replay of that. Dan Brewer just outclassing Yannick Bock there, which is a difficult thing to do because Yannick is one of the classiest racers here. Up on the inside, and there's the switchback, and that's exactly how the switchback's supposed to work. The only way you can really block a switchback like that is by parking your car on the apex, but then you both lose time. And Yannick Bock was not able to do so. Daniel Brewer went through and got up into 6th position in this race. We're getting to about the point in the race where Pascal Pollens is going to make, presumably, his last stop. Toby Davis said about 20 laps, so that's 2 more laps from here. And then he's got to make up all of that time on fresh rubber. He will presumably go onto the medium compounded tyres for the end.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he didn't, but you know, we've seen time and time again that my strategy calls are terrible. So who can know?
Unless he leaves that even longer and goes onto softs, but people don't really like to do that because it's so difficult to work out how much time it will take for the softs to hit the cliff at the end of the races. I mean, we saw in the first stint here, the softs really don't last very long. They're not particularly good tyres here. The tyre smooth on the back of Augustin Canapino. That's for P8 there. We'll have 31 laps remaining in this race. This has been a remarkably clean race so far. Not that I want to jinx anything or anything like that, but it's been significantly cleaner than all of the junior categories races. And sometimes that can make for quite a straightforward race, but not in Super League.
Yeah, no, it's it's maybe a straightforward race in terms of no one killing each other, but it's not a straightforward race in terms of figuring out strategies. It's not a straightforward race either for Agustin Canapino, who's just been left in the Audustin by Matthias Moose. I'm not apologising for that pun, as Chris Shepherd looks to make a similar move, ducking out with the DRS. And that, well, I mean, just goes to show the power of the DRS with a low downforce set around here. Done and dusted miles before the braking zone.
Indeed, up into 13th position now. It always reminds me of a Formula One race from about like maybe 2011 through to 2013, back when you didn't tend to get that much wheel-to-wheel racing, at least not kind of. I mean, it was over on the straights, and then sometimes you get a little bit of a switchback or something, but it would still be super unpredictable all the way through until the very, very end of the race, because you would get this kind of like pendulum effect of strategies, and then at some point someone would go into something completely different that you didn't see coming, and it's kind of like going back to that era, you know. I think possibly because we have more pit stops here today. We've had so many different styles of racing this year in GPVWC Super League. I mean, this, like I said, this feels like a 2012 Formula One race. But we've also had other ones that have felt a lot more modern, with kind of some DRS trains, some ambitious dives. We've had some chaotic races where we've had drivers going out, you know, Singapore, for example. And we've had, as Chris Shepherd goes up the inside of Sandeep Singh, we've had some more traditional strategic races as well, where everyone knows their strategies from the start of the race, and then you see how it plays out throughout the whole thing. And I really like the kind of variety that we've had this year, because even if a race has not necessarily been quite as exciting as some of the others, there's still so much intrigue and so much to talk about, and it's still been unpredictable. I guess that's the story of the season, unpredictability. Do you know what I'm saying? Sorry, Pascal Pollens is in the pits now.
Yeah, so Pollens dives in. Let's see what tyres he goes on to. This should be his final stop of the race, with 20 laps remaining. I presume a set of mediums. The game is saying hards, but can't take it for granted, it would seem. This race, our Factor 2's been throwing us some interesting tyre graphics, so we'll have to see if that updates in a moment. Comes up P7 in front of Matthias Moose, and, well, about 9 seconds back off of Yannick Box, so a decent portion to make up for Pollens. As Jukka-Pekka Laulu to the inside there on Canapino. Canapino gets the switch back. Oh! Round goes Laulu, off goes Canapino. He managed to keep it pointing in a straight line. I think just a racing instant there. But Jukka-Pekka Laulu losing positions. Big shame for the number 10. He's been having a great race. Just coming together through turn 2. Let's go on board with Laulu. So he gets the DRS. He's a long way back, but gets a huge dose of speed. I mean, I can see the speedo. You're looking at 340 kilometers an hour there. 345 at maximum. That is rapid. Then on the brakes, misses turn 1. He was quite an aggressive angle attack, and I'm afraid Canapino, I think, just tried to chop him off there. Tried to take the line as normal, and there was an Epic Racing Team car on the inside of the corner. A big shame there, but a racing incident.
And there's Geoffrey Fournier going for third on Tom Stevens. A very important move. Through he goes. And yes, Geoffrey Fournier, I still think is very much in contention for... Actually, to be honest, I'm going to say it. Geoffrey is still in contention for this race, for the win. He's only 2.5 seconds behind Stefan Roth, maybe 3 seconds at some points on the track. And that is definitely in the range where if Roth makes a mistake or gets held up a bit, which he might be about to be by Yannis Volban actually, then Geoffrey can be right on his tail. There's Leon Buck running in 9th position now, ahead of Augustin Canapino. Let's talk about Pollens as well. He has come out in 7th position. He's 17 seconds behind the overall lead. So that's about 16 seconds on Stefan Roth, who he'd need to pass if he was going to win this race. And with about 18 laps to go, that means he's got to gain just under a second a lap. That's not going to be doable, is it? I mean, I don't want to say I told you so, but Pascal Pollens not seemingly in position to win this race. I think he could have done earlier on. I think where it really went wrong for him was when he made that second pit stop early to try to get the undercut, and then realized too late that there wasn't going to be a pit window when he thought there was going to be, and he was just out there like a sitting duck as others came in much later. Dan Brewer fighting with Tom Stevens up the inside. Through he goes. Stevens still set for another set of softer tyres though. Daniel Stepkowski up to P11 on Jukka-Pekka Lally. But yes, at this point in the race, I think it's between Rural and Fournier, and I did not expect to be saying that near the start of the race, but Fournier has inserted himself into the discussion, especially in the latter stages of this race. And I'll be keeping an eye on his lap times as well to see how he compares to Stefan Rural. Fournier's last few laps, in fact, his last lap was in the 1:15s. That's very fast at this point in the race. And Stefan Rural. And into the pits comes Vulburn, so this is now the race for the lead. Stefan leads by 2 seconds over Jeffrey Fournier. Brewer is in third. Stefan Rural's last laps have been... What was the last lap? 1:19? Did he make a mistake there, or did he get held up significantly by Yannis Vulburn? Fournier's last lap was a 1:16, so Fournier's gained 3 seconds on that last lap. On Stefan Rural, just under 3 seconds. No, he didn't. 1.5... I swear it said 1:19 for Rural, but no, it is 1:16. I must have been checking Vulburn by accident. My mistake. Yes, thank you for the correction, Szymon. I was checking Vulburn by mistake. So actually, their lap times were about the same, it turns out, between Rural and Fournier, with a difference of 0.2 in Fournier's favour. So he is still gaining and still in contention for this win. But yes, it wasn't as dramatic as I made it seem there. Pascal Pollens, meanwhile, I tell you what, actually, I may have to bite my words because he is gaining quite significantly here. I said there was about a 16-second gap between him and Rural previously. There's now about 12 seconds, so he has been gaining by a number of seconds rather than tenths. The only difficulty, as I said before, is that it's not just fresh air he has in front of him. It's solid cars, cars such as Yannick Bock, Tom Stevens, Daniel Brewer, Jeffrey Fournier, and Stefan Rural.
Crazy scenes here in Mexico City with about 15 laps left on the clock. And just nobody has any idea what's going on, apparently. Yannick Bock still set to take the championship. Again, it was going to be pretty easy from coming to this race. All he had to do was score a singular point, so finish P15. And even if he finished outside of the points, his closest championship rival, his brother, had to take a win and fastest lap to take it to the final round. So Yannick can just cruise home, essentially. Though knowing Yannick, he won't be doing that. He'll be pushing all the way to the line. He'll want the best result he can get in order to best his chances. But Stefan Rural holding from Jeffrey Fournier at the moment. But Fournier, I don't know about you, but he's definitely closing in. I think it could be a bit of a late challenge. I mean, we've seen a few times from Fournier this season. But he's just kind of come from out of nowhere to get, steal a result. Think back to Australia with a great drive to P3. He's had a few P4s and 5s along the way as well. He is a fast driver. Could he be in to try and potentially steal a win here from Stefan Rural?
And Stevens pits for the final time for a very fresh set of very soft tyres, I expect. It's about 14 laps to go, so he can definitely go soft from here, I'd say. He goes medium just for safety. Fair enough. That does make sense. So Tom Stevens will be pushing now. Now, Toby Davis is sticking by his Pollens prediction, and he's so confident that actually I kind of trust him here. Pascal Pollens, I'm going to have to put him back in the discussion for the win here, even though we have 14 laps to go to gain 10 seconds. It's going to be close. What we're seeing right now is the Superleague effect, which is what I'm dubbing it, where strategies and race pace differs dramatically over the course of a race. And then suddenly in the latter stages, it all seems to bunch up again as it all kind of works itself out and you get drivers forming chains and all of that. And I love it when this happens. And it seems to happen every single time in GPWC, especially in 2022. I can't think of a race this year that anyone has necessarily dominated by more than, say, 10 seconds. I don't think it's happened. Which, like I said, it always keeps it fascinating. And yes, today it's not only going to be between Royal and Fournier, but it could potentially be between them and Pascal Pollens as well. Pollens, he's got to pass. I mean, these are race winners that he's got ahead of him here. These are drivers who know that they can hold position. I don't know if they can hold position against a car that's that quick necessarily, but I mean, this is going to be difficult. I would much rather be in Stefan Rohl's position right now than Pascal Pollens' position, because even though it might be more fun to be the hunter and to make those overtakes, I mean, Stefan Rohl, he's 2.5 seconds out in front, and 10 seconds out of Pollens, who is still being held up by cars. I would be feeling fairly comfortable if I was Stefan Rohl right now. But you gotta say, Pascal's looking quick. The only reason that he's not still gaining seconds per lap is because he's behind Yannick Botras.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because Pollens could be stealing P4 here. Again, we were questioning this late strategy, the strategy which everyone else seems to disagree with, but Pascal Pollens suddenly looking like he could be taking P4. It won't be down into turn 1. He's not close enough. We know that Yannick Bock is running a very low downforce setup, but he's been flying all race long, has Pollens, looking to maybe move forward up into positions above, and he's still got 12 laps as well to maybe try and squeeze himself back onto the podium as Tom Stevens goes on the ultra defensive from Chris Shepherd, who's going to make the move anyway, is making the move anyway, has made the move anyway. Great stuff there. Into P9 goes Chris Shepherd, but Stevens trying to fight back. Can't quite make it appear. He'll get the DRS up here, though. Maybe he'll try and fight back up here as well, but no, can't quite make it happen. It looks like, I think, that Chris Shepherd actually was just behind when he got to the DRS activation there as well, on board with Pollens. And he's, again, getting closer and closer to Yannick Bock in front. Not close enough to challenge with the DRS just yet, but doing a great job is the number 53.
Not great stuff for Tom Stevens right now, I'm afraid to say. He was looking so strong earlier on. Oh, McGorky saying this is what happens when you use max wings in the slowest car. I don't know quite who he's referring to then. I don't know. I don't think he's referring to Tom Stevens necessarily, but anyway. Plenty of drivers commenting as Pascal Pollens comes through on the inside of Yannick Bock now and gets up into 4th place. So through he goes. The gap now 8.5 seconds to Stefan Rohl. And he's got Dan Brewer as his next target, about 3 to 4 seconds up the road. It's difficult to tell because unfortunately the live timing is yo-yoing a bit, as Jan Grankvist has noticed. Jan saying Brewer, Fournier or Pollens for the win. Certainly looks like it. And yeah, Szymon saying Jeffrey could still win this. Full credit to Pollens. Man's goated this race, says Jan Grankvist. He's looking quick. He is looking quick for absolute sure. Okay. This race, very much not over yet. Plenty of time to, well, I say plenty of time to go, not as much as we had before, obviously, that's how time works, but still enough time for things to change. Pascal Pollens, the driver of interest at this point in time. Jeffrey Fournier took a chunk of time out of Rohl on that last lap there. Jeffrey Fournier's last lap was in the lower 115s, and Stefan Rohl still in the low 116s. So Jeffrey Fournier now within 2 seconds of Stefan Rohl for the first time since the very first lap of this race, if my memory serves me correctly. Poor Russ, this is getting tense.
It is indeed the final phase of the race about to get underway, and it's all to play for. Simply no one knows what is going to happen as we follow Stepkowski down into turn 1. Not going to be close enough to challenge Chris Shepherd this time. And up the front, Fournier getting closer and closer. Pollens past Yannick Bock and looking to close in on Daniel Brewer with that ridiculous pace. Fournier could be in for his first win of the season. What a result that would be, but he's got to get past the reigning champion, Stefan Rohl, who's been the pace setter all evening long. It is anyone's guess as to who is going to be on the top step of the podium come the end of this, the penultimate round of the 2022 GPVWC season here at the Autodromo, as he will get the DRS this time. So he's in the DRS, which is the main thing. He won't be challenging for the move, but he'll certainly be getting closer down into turn 1. Keep your eye on that gap. It's actually goes to show just how low of a downforce setup Stefan Rolt was running as well, is that even with the DRS, Fournier gaining like a 10th at best. Absolutely insane stuff from the reigning champion. But yeah, this is just crazy stuff as we get into the latter phases of the race. Fournier seemingly has the pace, but Rolt, we know, is a superb driver. Can he keep the lean green racing machine behind him as Tom Stevens looks to challenge Leon Bock, but again, won't be close enough. Stepkowski will be close enough, though. He's getting through Chris Shepherd down into turn 1 with a textbook move up the inside. Awesome stuff into P10.
So Geoffrey Fournier, who started 9th on this grid, who's only won once in his GPVWC Super League career, won the first race of the 2018 season, first race of Epic Racing Team's existence. And he's on the back of Stefan Roth and can potentially challenge for his second 4 years and counting later. Here we go, towards the DRS zone once again. He's even closer than he was a lap ago. He's within half a second here. DRS opens, it's after the finish line. Just to make sure that DRS isn't too overpowered by being the entire length of the straight. And into turn 1 they go. There's another DRS zone immediately following this chicane. Here's Pascal Pollins on the back of Dan Brewer as well. That's for P3, the final podium place. I'm still watching the top 2, so don't worry, we're not going to miss anything. And you can actually see them up the road there, which shows you just how much Pascal Pollins is getting closer to this fight for the lead. Brewer's been there the whole time, although isn't really getting much closer at this point. I think Brewer is a little faster than Roth and Fournier right now. Leon Bock, meanwhile, has just been passed by Tom Stevens, I think. There was definitely a change somewhere in that part of the order. And it would be good if Brewer and Pollins did get closer to Roth and Fournier, because not only would it make it more exciting, but it would mean that we could watch both battles in one go, which is always helpful in races like this, where you don't necessarily know where to look. Here we go, onto the straight once again. Geoffrey Fournier even closer than he was a lap ago. Surely this is an opportunity now. I think he may be running slightly higher wings than Roth, potentially. He'll still get the advantage of the DRS and the slipstream into turn 1, but I feel like if the cars have been reversed, and there is Pollins up the inside, and he gets 3rd place away from Dan Brewer, so Pollins on his charge is on the podium at least. Can he catch up to Geoffrey Fournier and Stefan Roth? But yes, whatever happens here, I feel like if Roth and Fournier had been the other way around, Roth would have passed Fournier there. So Fournier potentially running slightly higher wings, which may allow him to keep up a little better through the S's here. There's Stepkowski on Leon Bock. Side by side.
Banging wheels.
They do. Ooh, Stepkowski maintains P9. Here's Chris Shepherd as well. Now we knew that Leon Bock wasn't really going to be able to keep the championship alive today, whatever happened, but it would be a shame to finish outside the top 10 on a day like today, surely. Ooh, a little bit of contact again. And Leon Bock is shuffled out of the top 10. That's miserable, I'm afraid to say. Not any shame on Leon Bock's part. I mean, he's still it's still pretty impressive to run in the points in a GPWC Super League race. I'm not sure that anyone who hasn't competed in GPWC at any level really understands how good these drivers are. But Leon Bock, despite being one of the best drivers out there, is not having one of the best days. And I'm afraid this is probably the least competitive I've seen him be in a long time. Didn't have a particularly good day in Suzuka either. Could only manage 7th on that occasion after qualifying outside of the top 10. And it's all kind of unraveling now for Leon Bock.
However, a big shame.
It is indeed. But we still have this fight for the lead to keep us entertained in the remaining laps of this race. There's the 3rd DRS zone. It's not really an overtaking opportunity. It's only really there to keep the cars on the tail of the car ahead of them, heading towards the start-finish straight. And then we get the actual opportunities, although Fournier with a little twitch won't be close enough this time around.
No, but he's still getting closer and closer, lap on lap, corner on corner. As this race draws nearer and nearer to its conclusion, Fournier could be within a shout. I mean, if he finishes where he is, it's still his best result this season, but he'll want that win. His first win of the year. Can he take it, though, is the question. It's one thing to catch driver, it's another one to pass them, especially when that driver is the absolute mammoth that is Stefan Roll. Such a talented, such a fast driver he is. And bear in mind that while if they start to fight as well, this could open the door for Pollens to maybe make this a three-way fight in the final few laps, so it's all to play for.
Toby Davis will be rubbing his hands with glee right now as Pascal Pollens approaches and looks to potentially be about to prove me wrong. He's done an amazing job to get up to P3 at this point. We know that he's been one of the fastest drivers all the way through this race, but for him to win would just be the icing on the cake. How close is Fournier this time? It's less than half a second again. Could this be an opportunity? He's been about 4 tenths behind a couple of times now, heading onto the start-finish straight, and hasn't quite been able to pass Pollens 2 seconds back from Roll, heading onto the straight that time. And he's going to get DRS from Fournier before long.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds in the dying phases. Fournier closer than ever to Stefan Roll as Pollens continues to carve the gap. Fournier goes for a dive. Doesn't quite make the move happen, but that was a threat to Stefan Roll. He's going, I'm here, I'm filling your mirrors, I'm fighting for this win. And again, while they're fighting, Pollens is drawing nearer and nearer. This is going to be a three-way fight to the lead with 2 laps left to go, I'm telling you now.
And it's worth noting that this is only Pascal Pollens' 3rd GPVWC Super League outing. He is doing an amazing job in that Holland Racing Team car. 4th in this year's Super Lights Championship, but didn't claim a victory. Imagine if his first GPVWC victory was in Super League. That would be quite something for the driver who has stunned the opposition here today. Here we go through the final corner once again. Fournier is not going to be close enough. Pollens has DRS now. Pollens is in DRS of Geoffrey Fournier up ahead. He can sniff this victory. Even if he finishes on the podium here today, this would still be his most notable GPWC result by a long way. His previous 2 GPWC Super League results have both been in the top 10, but nowhere near the speed that we've seen so far today as Yannick Bock takes P4 away from Dan Brewer. Another fight that might go to the end.
Getting very, very tense here in Mexico City as Volburn to the inside of Dan Brewer, banging wheels, but gets the move done. Still at it side by side. Brewer shoves it in the wall. They're both in the wall. Disaster late into the race for Volburn and Brewer, who have been so strong all race long in a racing incident. Oh, that's a huge shame. Volburn continues, Brewer out of the race. Oh, what a shame there. We switch our attention, though, back to the front. Fournier looking almost touching with Stefan Roll, and Pollens is right there. You can't make this up. You can't make this up.
That's going to leave them both vulnerable on the straight. Here we go. Fournier less than 4 tenths behind Roll. They might both have a go at Roll. Watch this. Who's that behind them? Oh, that's a lap car. Ignore that. Okay, keep your eye on this. Here we go down towards turn 1. Geoffrey Fournier has a go. He's on the outside line, around the outside of Stefan Roll, and he gets it. Geoffrey Fournier takes the lead in the latter stages of this race.
Compromised his exit, though.
3 laps to go, including the one we're on. Pollens is on the grass. Pollens gets the DRS, but he's on the grass, and he makes the move anyway. He makes a grassy, successful move into 2nd position. He's on the back of Fournier and in DRS range. I think Pollens is going to win. Watch this. He's on the back of Fournier now, but we're going to see a replay of what's just happened. And here he goes. This is Volburn making a move on Brewer. there was contact, and then there was a crash on the exit of the corner as they locked wheels and Brewer was forced into the wall. He is now out of this race, I'm afraid to say. Volburn was lucky to keep his front wing. He's still in 5th place. And then we got that amazing scrap for the lead with Fournier passing Rolt around the outside and Rolt losing 2 places in pretty much as many corners, with Pollens making a grassy move up into 2nd position. Now they go for it again on they're heading up towards turn 1. Pollens is half a second behind Fournier. He's gaining, and Pollens is going for the lead. He goes to the outside, and just as Fournier did on Rolt, on Rolt a lap ago, Pascal Pollens takes the lead around the outside of turn 1. Pascal Pollens has the lead in Super League.
Insane stuff. Pollens has made the 3-stopper work and he's taken the lead on the penultimate lap of the race. Just wow. Wow, that is strategy at its finest. We were all doubting. He's stuck to it. He's made it work, using his talent, using his pace. Geoffrey Fournier, can he respond? Is he going to have to go on the defensive from Rolt in P2, who is quite a way back from, but we know he's brutal on that straight with the DRS, given his low downforce setup. Pollens just flying. We're about to go onto the final lap, and it's a 3-way fight for the lead.
Absolutely. Jan Grankvist points out an interesting point, which is that Fournier might be saving push to pass as well. But with Pollens' fresher tyres, I don't think that that's a wise strategy. I think that that right now it's all over. I think Pascal Pollens has this, and it's all about the fight for second now. Fournier still has the DRS from... He's not opened the DRS, actually, has he? Oh, he has. But Stefan Rolt is now going to be coming back at him after that move for the lead. We're on to the final lap of this race now, with Pollens leading by just under a second from Fournier and Rolt. Then it's Yannick Bock and Yannis Volburn. Yannick Bock is going to win the championship surely now, because Leon Bock has 34.5 seconds to gain, which isn't going to happen. Here we go through the chicane and then the hairpin for the final time. Oh, what a race this has been between Pascal Pollens, Geoffrey Fournier and Stefan Rolt. At different points in the race, I've called it for different drivers. Rolt was leading by over 5 seconds at one point. Then Fournier took the lead. Tom Stevens has been in the mix at times. He led for quite a while in the pit window. And Pascal Pollens has come up trumps. Look at Geoffrey Fournier though, still. I think that was desperation there, just trying to force Pollens to make a mistake of some variety. Out of the final corner, Pascal Pollens wins his very first GPVWC Super League race in terrific style. And watch as Yannick Bock now comes around the final corner, and he will win the championship. Yannick Bock is the world champion of 2022 GPVWC Super League racing, and what a drive to do it. It's not a podium and it's not a win. It's not his best performance by any means, but even so, he had to fend off several drivers. Volburn and Brewer were fighting with him towards the end, and that was a mistake there from... Actually, that was a driver who was... No, that was Stevens losing a place to Sepkovsky. So the order at the end, we'll read out when we get the sheet, but I mean, you can see it on the left of your screen there. And here is a replay, and this is Tom Stevens making his mistake. He was going to finish P7. He lost it in the end to Stepkovsky. Good recovery drive from Daniel Stepkovsky in all of this, although what could have been if it hadn't been for that first lap spin. And talking of spins, good save there from Tom Stevens to not go around and lose even more positions, which he could potentially have done. Almost looked as if he was running out of fuel there, because he was really slow on the exit of the corner too. There are Pollens and Volburn celebrating a strong performance from Holland Racing Team, side by side, and Pascal Pollens wins his first GPWC victory, not just in Super League, but outright. And what a better place to do it than at the Super League Mexican Grand Prix. In the final stages of the race, he will be absolutely pumped right now. I can barely imagine it. Pollens wins, Fournier second, then it's Rolt, Yannick Bock, who is our world champion, then Volburn, Moose, Stepkovsky, Stevens, Shepard, and Leon Bock. Commiserations to Leon Bock. He did all that he could, but today just did not have the pace. And even if he had the pace, Yannick Bock would have won it anyway. Now we'll see the second page of the standings, which will start with Tomasz Vlok. and then Sandeep Singh, Augustin Canapino, Jakub Egalalu, and Stephen Lexu there, picking up 1 point from MDR. Good drive from Stephen. And outside of the points, both the Green Stripes cars missing out of Jan Dragoon and Mike Quint. Then it was Philip Pushkit and Robin Panzer. And our 3 DNFs were Daniel Brewer, Heiko Pum, and Alessandro Quinte. A relatively clean race if you ignore the crash that happened late on with Daniel Brewer. There are the DNFs. You're actually missing one from the screen there, but anyway. And David Yunt was P20 in all of that, finishing 3 laps down. What a race that was! I know I say that after every Super League race, but we have not had a single dull race all year. What do you think, Ross? What a race.
That was brilliant. I mean, those last 3 laps, just electric. And it's almost a shame we've only got 1 race left as well. We've had the championship decided. Yannick Bock is world champion. It's not all doom and gloom for Leon Bock as well. He has locked himself into that vice champion spot, so he is untouchable in second. It's a 1-2 in the championship in the drivers, and it will be the constructors for Evolution Motorsports as well. What a dominant season they have had, but well, what a performance from their drivers. What a performance from Pascal Pollins as well, taking that victory. Superb stuff.
And Royalt's up to 3rd in the championship by my calculations too, so Stefan Royalt getting up into 3rd. Okay, we can actually move on to the interviews now, and the first driver that we have is our brand new GPVWC Super League race winner, Pascal Pollins. What a way to do it. You haven't just won your first Super League race, but your first GPVWC race outright, and we were expecting to be in contention today.
Well, the training was decent, but yeah, after qualifying, I wasn't too sure about it, because starting in P2 is with P1 the worst position, I think, in Mexico. But yeah, after I've seen my pace in my second stint with the Hearts, I thought maybe yeah, it's time. But in the end, yeah, it was time.
Absolutely. I mean, there was one point in the race where Toby Davis was saying you were going to win it, and you were dropping down to 7th in the pits, and I was like, yeah, no way he's gaining 14 seconds. And you went and did it. And won the race. Now, Mexico City is clearly a good track for you. You were 2nd here in Super Lights. It was your best Super Lights performance to date as well. Do you know what it is about this circuit that just makes you so unstoppable?
Yeah, it was probably one of the first times training actually for the races, like training a decent amount, and yeah, it worked out. And yeah, also I like the track. Second sector is very nice to drive with these cars, and yeah, it was just all coming together for me.
You sound remarkably calm, Pascal. I mean, how does it feel to have tried for so long to get your first victory in Super Lights, to have just about failed at that last time, and then to correct it with a Super League win of all things? How does that feel?
It's awesome, actually. Yeah, even if you don't hear it, I'm quite happy. I think you know that, but yeah, it was a tough time sometimes in Super Lights. Also, the race on Tuesday, I think I went with the wrong tire in the last stint, and today I corrected it and went for the Hearts all the time, and it worked out. And yeah, at this place also thank you to my new race engineer, Kevin Peters. I just got him for this race, and yeah, it seems to work out quite nicely.
Unbelievable. It certainly worked out for you. My goodness. Ross, do you have anything to add for our brand new GPVWC Super League race winner?
No, just congratulations, Pascal. That was a phenomenal strategy you had. You had great pace. You ran the strategy perfectly, and fully deserved. What a fantastic final few laps that was, and congratulations, fully deserved.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Congratulations. Okay, so that was Pascal Pollins there winning his first GPVWC Super League race at the Mexican Grand Prix. We don't yet have Yannick Bock in, and that is a shame because we've got to, I mean, he's won the championship. We can't not interview him. If anyone knows Yannick Bock, could you please pester him relentlessly right now? Because it would be a real shame if he didn't jump in. I'm actually going to send him a Discord notification. Congrats, Yannick. We're waiting for you. As you hear my typing, no doubt, I do have quite a loud keyboard. I'm aware of that. My apologies, but yes, we can't miss out on this opportunity. Yannick Bock, he was always going to win this, but it was always a question of when. And to do it today, I mean, the pressure is off his shoulders. He can go to the next round at Brazil knowing that he's got it. No matter what happens, there is not a quirk of fate that can take it away from him right now. Of course, you're not officially crowned the champion until GPWC Day, but mathematically, there is no way that anyone else can beat him now. Obviously, these are unofficial results. There are still, I guess, potentially penalties pending or anything. I mean, I didn't see anything that Yannick could have done. And here he is now in the interview room. Yannick Buck is the Super League champion of 2022. Yannick, how does that feel?
Good, I guess. It was a tough race for me, so I'm not very happy today. But yeah, in the end, I had some good races in the past, so I'm happy that I could finally get the second title.
Absolutely, Yannick. You've got 4 race victories this season, many podiums, and you've won it all outright. And yeah, that's got to make up for last year. I mean, last year was such a close championship fight. It all looked to be going your way until the final round. Was that playing in your mind? Were you just like, I've got to wrap it up now, you never know what can happen right at the end?
Not really. I mean, it was close the last 2 years, but this season I just wanted to win every race, and that was my approach. So yeah, today was tough for me. I think we went wrong on setup and had some tire issues. But yeah, I'm quite happy that we won the team title as well last race.
Indeed.
And yeah, finally we could celebrate the second drivers' championship.
Yeah, I should make a few quick apologies. First of all, I didn't mention the team's championship last time out because it's very difficult to work out on the fly, so I didn't want to get it wrong. But congratulations to Evolution Motorsports for wrapping that up. They did, in fact, do it 2 weeks ago. And also, earlier on, I said that it was your first championship today, although that is not true because, of course, you won it in 2019. In my mind, for some weird reason, you had come second 3 times in a row, but it was actually just twice, 2020 and 2021, and now you've corrected it with your second GPVWC championship. Let's talk about the race in particular for a bit. You were fighting hard there with, I mean, Volburn was in it, Brewer was in it. Earlier on, it was Fournier, although Fournier got away in the end, I'm afraid to say. But yeah, how was it out there being in such close company the whole way through?
I mean, we had quite good top speed, so I just tried to save rears and follow the other guys. But yeah, in the end, you could see that they still could do phenomenal lap times, and I was just struggling with the tires. And yeah, I think P4 was the maximum for us today.
Indeed. Well, even so, it gave you the championship. P15 would have given you the championship today, so I guess this was remarkably better than it could have been, even if it's not a podium or a win or anything like that. What else can we ask? Brazil, how does this change your attitude going into the final round?
I would say not at all. I think we will practice like every race and try to win it.
Fair enough, good stuff. And what are your plans for next season? Are you staying with Evolution?
We didn't talk about next season yet, so not sure what we are doing.
Okay, quite late to be talking about that kind of thing. Do you expect to stay in Super League?
I haven't decided yet. Yeah, we are waiting for the official announcement of the new season and what comes with prize money and stuff, and license cost and so on. So we haven't decided yet, and yeah, we will see what happens.
Well, I do hope you stay, Yannick, because you're on your way to becoming a real legend of this series and one of the most successful drivers that we've ever seen. So it would be a shame if you didn't come back and defend your crown. But anyway, it's up to you, of course. But for now, congratulations on your championship, and yeah, go and celebrate with your team, who are also champions right now.
Thank you. I think I will do it in the weekend.
Great stuff, great stuff. So that was Yannick Buck, 2-time world champion of GPWC right now, and a good day to win it as well. So I have been your commentator, Caitlin Penny. That is all we have time for today. Joining me has been Ross McIntyre, and Szymon Frelik has been providing the cameras and the broadcast that you've been seeing. This race has come to you courtesy of GPVWC, and the race director was Chris Williamson. We're going to be live again in 2 weeks' time for the season finale, and even though it's already been wrapped up, the race is still going to be just as exciting. If every other race that we've seen this season is anything to go by, and remember last year the race was wrapped up on the very last lap at Brazil, so who's to say that it won't be once again? In the meantime, we do have some championships to be won in other categories as well. On Tuesday, we're going to be going live with Formula Sprint 2, and that's going to be between Jack Nair and Luke Mitchell, so look out for that one. I'm going to be racing in that as well, and unfortunately, I'm not in contention for the championship. I was knocked out of that a very long time ago, but I'm going to be giving it my best shot nonetheless. We also have Formula Sprint 1 coming up. That championship has already been decided in favour of Tom Stevens. That will be on Thursday. And then, of course, the Tuesday after FS2, we have Super Lights, where we have a championship scrap between Jan Grankvist, Szymon Frelik, and Luke Maguire at the final round. For the time being, though, thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you in Brazil. Goodbye.